I never thought a simple bracelet could shatter my world. It wasn't even particularly beautiful, just a delicate silver chain with a small heart charm that I found wedged between the passenger seat and center console of my husband's car. But it wasn't mine, and I knew with absolute certainty that Caleb hadn't bought it for me. My name is Ellie, and until that moment, I thought I had a pretty good handle on my life. Not perfect, but good enough. The kind of life where you go through the motions, making school lunches, attending parent-teacher conferences, and pretending not to notice when your husband comes home later and later from work. "Mommy, can we have pancakes?" Jasper's voice pulled me from my thoughts. He stood in the doorway of the garage, still in his dinosaur pajamas, completely unaware that his mother was having an existential crisis while cleaning out the family car. "Sure, baby." I quickly pocketed the bracelet, my hands trembling slightly. "Go wash up and I'll start breakfast." As I mixed the batter, my mind raced through possibilities. Maybe it belonged to a coworker who needed a ride. Maybe it was a gift for me that he forgot about. Maybe I was being paranoid. But deep down, I knew better. The same way I knew better when I smelled unfamiliar perfume on his shirts, or when he started taking calls in another room. "These are the best pancakes ever," Jasper declared, maple syrup dripping down his chin. I forced a smile, watching him devour his breakfast. "Don't forget you have soccer practice after school today. Is Dad coming?" He said he'll try, sweetie." Another lie to add to the growing pile. The rest of the morning passed in a blur. After dropping Jasper at school, I sat in the parking lot, staring at the bracelet in my palm. The price tag was still attached, tucked discreetly inside the clasp, $450. That's what my marriage was worth, apparently. A mid-range piece of jewelry that wasn't even my style. My phone buzzed. A text from Caleb, working late again. "Don't wait up." Of course he was. I typed and deleted several responses before settling on a simple, "Okay?" What I wanted to say was, "I found her bracelet." I know, but I didn't. Not yet. Because once those words were out there, everything would change. And I wasn't quite ready for that. Not until I figured out exactly how I was going to make him regret every single lie he'd told me. I started the car, the bracelet heavy in my pocket. For the first time in years, I felt something other than resignation. I felt angry. And anger, I was beginning to realize, might be exactly what I needed to finally stand up for myself. I waited until Jasper was asleep before confronting Caleb. He sat at the kitchen island, scrolling through his phone with that familiar distant look in his eyes. The bracelet felt like it was burning a hole in my pocket. "I found something interesting in your car today," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. He barely glanced up. "Oh." I placed the bracelet on the counter between us. The silver chain caught the light, throwing tiny reflections across his face. For a split second, I saw something flicker in his eyes, panic, maybe guilt, before his expression smoothed over. "That's Sarah from accountings," he said, his tone casual. "She left it in my car when I gave her a ride to a client meeting last week." I meant to return it. The lie slid off his tongue so easily that I almost believed him. Almost. "A $450 bracelet?" I picked it up, letting it dangle from my fingers. "That's quite expensive for someone in accounting." "What are you implying, Ellie?" His voice took on that condescending tone I'd grown to hate. "You're being paranoid again." Again. I felt my cheeks flush. When was I paranoid before? When you started working late every Tuesday and Thursday. When you changed your phone password. When you... Stop. He stood up, towering over me. "I'm not doing this with you. I work hard to provide for this family, and I don't deserve to be interrogated like a criminal." "Provide." I laughed, but it came out more like a sob. "When was the last time you came to one of Jasper's soccer games? Or helped him with homework? Or had dinner with us before 9 p.m.? Mommy." We both turned to see Jasper standing in the doorway, clutching his stuffed dinosaur. The sight of his worried face made my heart crack. "Everything's okay, sweetie," I said, forcing a smile. "Did we wake you? Are you fighting because of me?" "No, baby." I moved to hug him, but Caleb got there first. "Your mom and I are just having a grown-up discussion," he said, scooping Jasper up. "Let's get you back to bed." I watched them disappear upstairs, the bracelet still dangling from my fingers. My phone buzzed, a text from Maggie. "Coffee tomorrow? You've been quiet lately." I typed back quickly, please. I need to talk. When Caleb came back downstairs, he acted like nothing had happened. He grabbed his keys and jacket, muttering something about forgotten paperwork at the office. I didn't stop him. Instead, I went to our bedroom and opened his side of the closet. If he could lie so easily about a bracelet, what else was he hiding? It was time to find out exactly who my husband had become. He's sleeping with someone named Lila. Maggie's coffee went cold as I showed her the messages I'd found on Caleb's tablet. He'd forgotten to log out of his email account, probably too distracted by his late-night work emergency. That son of a... Maggie caught herself glancing around the quiet cafe. How long have you known? I found the messages this morning. My hands shook as I scrolled through the exchanges. She works at his firm. 29, apparently. There are pictures. Oh, honey. Maggie reached across the table, squeezing my hand. What are you going to do? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. Ruth's name flashed on the screen. My mother-in-law had always been more of a mother to me than my own, and the thought of disappointing her made my stomach turn. Eleanor, dear, her warm voice filled my ear. We haven't seen you and Jasper in ages. Why don't you both come for dinner tonight? Walter's grilling steaks. I don't know if. Caleb's already confirmed he'll be there. Said he'd leave work early for once. I caught Maggie's eye and something clicked. Actually, Ruth, that sounds perfect. We'll be there. After hanging up, Maggie raised an eyebrow. What are you planning? I'm done being the only one carrying this secret. I pulled up the photos I'd taken of the messages. It's time his parents saw who their son really is. Are you sure? Once you do this. Look at this. I showed her a message thread from 2 days ago. Lila asking about divorce lawyers, Caleb promising to leave me after securing a better custody arrangement for Jasper. He's already planning his exit strategy. I'm just going to beat him to it. Back home, I found Caleb's tablet still logged into his email. With trembling fingers, I forwarded the entire exchange to myself, including the messages about their planned future together. As I hit send, a new email notification popped up. From Lila Brooks. Subject: Tonight? Can't wait to see you. My place at 8? I bought something special to wear. Or not wear, face blowing a kiss. I checked the time, 2:30 p.m. Dinner at his parents' was at 6 o'clock. I picked up my phone and took a screenshot of Lila's email, then typed a quick response from Caleb's account. Can't tonight. Family dinner. Tomorrow. Her reply came instantly. Promise? I miss you already. Promise, I wrote back, feeling sick. I deleted the exchange and logged out. Then I called Ruth back. Would it be alright if I came over early to help with dinner? There's something important I need to discuss with you and Walter. Of course, dear. Is everything okay? No, I said, surprising myself with how steady my voice sounded. But it will be. Ruth's kitchen had always been my safe haven, but today it felt like a battlefield. I watched her season the steaks, trying to find the right words to shatter her world. Ruth, I need to show you something. My hands trembled as I reached for my phone. Is this about Caleb? She put down the pepper grinder. I've noticed something's been off with him lately. Before I could respond, Walter walked in. Ellie, you're early. His warm smile made what I was about to do even harder. Sit down, both of you. Please. They exchanged worried glances but settled at the kitchen table. I pulled up the emails, then hesitated. I love you both like my own parents. You should know that first. Eleanor, you're scaring me. Ruth reached for my hand. The back door slammed. Mom? Dad? Caleb's voice carried from the hallway. My heart stopped. He wasn't supposed to be here yet. Kitchen. Walter called out. I quickly locked my phone screen as Caleb appeared, his confident smile faltering when he saw me. What's going on? I was just about to tell your parents about Lila, I said quietly. The color drained from his face. Ellie, don't. Who's Lila? Ruth looked between us, confusion clouding her features. Nobody, Caleb snapped. Ellie's been imagining things. Really? I unlocked my phone. Should I read the emails? Or show them the pictures? Or maybe explain why you're planning to take Jasper from me? Walter stood up so abruptly his chair toppled backward. What is she talking about, son? It's complicated, Caleb started, but I cut him off. No, it's actually very simple. I turned to Ruth and Walter. Your son has been sleeping with a woman from his office for months. He's planning to leave me, but first he wants to make sure he gets custody of Jasper. The silence that followed was deafening. Ruth's hand covered her mouth, tears welling in her eyes. Walter just stared at his son, disappointment etched into every line of his face. "Where is Jasper now?" Ruth finally whispered. "With Maggie. I didn't want him to." I swallowed hard. I didn't want him to see this. "You had no right." Caleb's voice was low, dangerous. "This is between us." "No," I stood up straighter. "You made it about everyone when you planned to use our son as a weapon against me." "I think," Walter said slowly, "you should leave, Caleb." "Dad." "Now." As Caleb stormed out, Ruth pulled me into a tight embrace. Over her shoulder, I watched Walter sink back into his chair, suddenly looking every bit his age. I'd won this battle, but the war was far from over, and Jasper was still caught in the middle. I was packing Jasper's favorite dinosaur pajamas when I heard the front door slam. Caleb's footsteps thundered up the stairs, and I quickly locked our bedroom door. "Open the damn door, Ellie." His fist pounded against the wood. "You had no right to tell my parents. Like you had no right to plan my son's custody behind my back." I shoved another handful of clothes into the suitcase. "Our son," he snarled. "And everything I did was to protect him from your paranoid delusions." The door handle rattled violently. I grabbed my phone, hitting record. "Is that why you told Lila you'd make sure I only got supervised visits?" My voice shook, but I kept packing. "Because I'm delusional? You went through my private messages. Just like you went through my therapy records?" The words exploded out of me. "Yeah, Maggie found the paperwork in your desk. Using my postpartum depression from 6 years ago against me? That's low, even for you." Silence. Then softer. "I'm just trying to protect my family." "Your family?" I zipped the suitcase. "The one you're building with Lila, or the one you're destroying with your lies?" The pounding resumed, harder this time. "If you leave with my son, You'll what?" I moved closer to the door. "Hit it again, Caleb. Give me more evidence for the judge." More silence. Then footsteps retreating, followed by the sound of breaking glass downstairs. I jumped, my heart racing. My phone buzzed. "Maggie, we're outside. Ruth and Walter are here too." I hadn't expected them to come, but their presence gave me strength. I grabbed the suitcases and opened the door cautiously. Caleb stood at the bottom of the stairs, surrounded by the shattered remains of our wedding photo. His eyes were wild, desperate. "Don't do this." "You did this," I said, descending the stairs slowly. "Every lie, every betrayal, every manipulation. That was all you." "I'll destroy you in court," he whispered. "Everything you love." "Mommy." Jasper's voice came from outside. "Grandma says we're having a sleepover." The front door opened, and Ruth stepped in. The look she gave her son could have frozen hell. "Let them go, Caleb," she said quietly, "before you make things worse." He stepped aside, his facade cracking. For a moment, I saw the man I'd married, scared, insecure, human. But then his eyes hardened again, and I knew that man was gone. As Walter helped me load the cars, I heard Caleb's voice one last time. "This isn't over." "No," I agreed, watching Jasper climb into Ruth's car, clutching his dinosaur. "But it's not going to end the way you planned." I got into Maggie's car, my hands steady for the first time in days. The game had changed, and this time I was writing the rules. 3 days after leaving Caleb, I found myself sitting in a lawyer's office, staring at documents that threatened to destroy everything. Somehow, he'd managed to get an emergency custody hearing scheduled for the following week. "These allegations are serious, Mrs. Harper," my lawyer said, spreading out the papers. "Your husband claims you're emotionally unstable, that you've been making false accusations and displaying paranoid behavior. He's using my postpartum depression against me," I said, my voice hollow. "From 6 years ago. And he has documentation from your therapist. Records he obtained illegally." Maggie interjected from the chair beside me. "That has to count for something." The lawyer sighed. "It should, but Caleb's firm has considerable influence with the local judges. And his father." "Walter won't help him," I interrupted. "Not after everything." My phone buzzed, a text from Ruth. "Caleb's here. He's demanding to see Jasper." My hands started shaking. "I have to go." I found them in Ruth's driveway. Caleb stood with his arms crossed, looking more polished and controlled than I'd ever seen him. Jasper clung to Ruth's leg, eyes wide with confusion. "There's my boy," Caleb said, his voice honey-sweet. "Ready for some father-son time?" "He's scared," I said, moving between them. "You're scaring him." "I'm scaring him?" Caleb laughed, but there was no warmth in it. "You're the one who dragged him away from his home in the middle of the night. After you threatened." "I never threatened anyone," he cut in smoothly. "That's just another example of your paranoid delusions, isn't it, Eleanor?" The way he said my name like I was a misbehaving child made something snap inside me. "You want to talk about delusions? Let's talk about Lila. Let's talk about how you—" Actually, a new voice interrupted. "Let's talk about that." We all turned to see Lila herself walking up the driveway, her face pale but determined. Caleb's confident mask slipped for the first time. "What are you doing here?" he hissed. "Fixing my mistake," she said, then turned to me. "Mrs. Harper, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. He told me you were separated, that you were unstable. But then I saw the custody documents he was preparing, and I realized." "Lila, stop talking," Caleb ordered. "No," she pulled out her phone. "I saved everything. All the messages where you planned how to use her medical history against her. How you wanted to make her look unfit. I can't. I won't help you destroy someone like this." Caleb's face contorted with rage, and for a moment, I thought he might lunge at her. Instead, he turned on his heel and stormed to his car, tires screeching as he drove away. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, watching Jasper's tears as his father abandoned him yet again, I felt nothing but hollow. We'd won this battle, but the war was far from over, and the casualties were already too high. The letter from Aunt Sarah arrived exactly when I needed it most. I hadn't even known she owned property in Millbrook, 3 hours away from the life I was trying to leave behind. But there it was, a house, fully paid for, waiting for us. "It's perfect timing," Maggie said, helping me pack the last of our things from Ruth's guest room. "Caleb won't expect." The doorbell cut her off. Through the window, I saw Caleb's expensive car in the driveway, and beside it, a police cruiser. "Mrs. Harper?" An officer stood at the door. "Your husband has reported concerns about your mental state and your son's safety." Before I could respond, Ruth appeared behind me. "Officer, I'm Ruth Harper, Caleb's mother." "I can assure you." "I have a court order," Caleb interrupted, waving papers. "Jasper needs to come with me until the custody hearing." My world tilted sideways. "No. Mom." Jasper's small voice came from upstairs. "What's happening?" "Nothing, baby. Stay upstairs with Maggie." Caleb tried to push past me, but Walter blocked his path. "Son, think about what you're doing." "I am thinking," Caleb snapped. "I'm thinking about my son being dragged around by an unstable woman who—" "Who what?" Lila's voice cut through the tension. She stood in the driveway, clutching a familiar-looking folder. "Who discovered her husband's affair? Who found evidence of his planned manipulation of the court system?" Caleb's face went white. "Where did you get those?" "From your office. The same place you illegally accessed Ellie's medical records." She handed the folder to the officer. "Everything's there, including emails discussing how to fabricate evidence of mental instability." The officer flipped through the documents, his expression darkening. "Mr. Harper, these allegations are serious." "She's lying," Caleb sputtered. "She's just angry because you promised to leave your wife for me?" Lila's laugh was bitter. "No. I'm doing this because it's right." I watched Caleb's carefully constructed world crumble. The officer was speaking into his radio, requesting guidance about the custody order's validity given the new evidence. "Why?" Caleb's voice cracked as he looked at me. "I gave you everything." "No," I said quietly. "You gave me things. Houses, cars, vacations, anything to avoid giving me respect or honesty." The officer returned, explaining that the custody order was temporarily suspended pending investigation. As Caleb was led back to his car, defeated, I felt no triumph, only relief. That evening, as Jasper and I drove toward our new home in Millbrook, I realized something. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying your enemy. Sometimes it's about building something better from the ruins they left behind. 6 months later, I stood in our Millbrook garden, watching Jasper chase butterflies through the wildflowers. The house needed work, peeling paint, creaky stairs, overgrown gardens. But it was ours. Every imperfection felt like freedom. My phone buzzed with a text from Ruth. He's starting therapy next week. I didn't need to ask who he was. After losing his job over the ethics violation of accessing my medical records, Caleb had finally hit rock bottom. Part of me wanted to feel satisfied, but I mostly felt tired. Revenge had stopped mattering somewhere between the court dates and the quiet dinners with Jasper in our new kitchen. "Mom," Jasper called out. "Look what I found." He held up a silver charm bracelet, dirt-covered but familiar. My breath caught. It was identical to the one that had started everything. "Where did you get that, sweetie?" "It was in the flower bed. Aunt Sarah must have lost it." Of course. My aunt had always loved her jewelry. The universe had a strange sense of humor sometimes. The doorbell rang. Maggie, right on time for our weekly dinner. But when I opened the door, Caleb stood there instead, looking smaller somehow in casual clothes. "I'm not here to cause trouble," he said quickly, hands raised. I needed to say something." I glanced at Jasper, still happily exploring the garden. "Make it quick." "I'm sorry." The words tumbled out. Not just for Lila, but for everything before that. The control, the manipulation, the way I made you doubt yourself. I was terrified of not being enough, and I turned that fear into weapons against you. "Why now?" "Because I finally understand what you meant about respect." He swallowed hard. "And because Jasper deserves to see his father own his mistakes." I studied him, the shadows under his eyes, the humility that had replaced his arrogance. "You're right, he does. Would it be okay if I talked to him? Just for a few minutes." I nodded slowly. "Jasper? Come here, baby. Someone wants to say hello." As they talked, I watched from the porch, the old bracelet cool in my palm. 6 months ago, I'd wanted revenge, wanted Caleb to hurt like I hurt. Now, watching him kneel in the dirt to examine Jasper's butterfly collection, I realized something. Sometimes the best endings aren't about winning or losing. Sometimes they're about finding the strength to let go of the story you thought you needed to tell. I slipped the bracelet into my pocket, making a mental note to add it to Jasper's treasure box. Some things are better remembered as the beginning of something new, rather than the end of something broken.
I'm sorry for serving you something that didn't taste right. I promise I won't make it again. No matter what I prepared, it always seemed to be met with criticism. I reached my breaking point and decided it was time to divorce and leave the house. Then something unexpected happened with my husband and our eldest son. When a woman gets married, she often loses her first name. My name is Emma, but at work and in the neighborhood, I'm known as Mrs. Taylor. Even at the daycare and school, that's how they address me. I'd be fine if my husband called me by my first name, but he only ever says, "Hey." From the start of our marriage and even now, at 50, I've always called him Gordon, but it seems he's never picked up on the hint. Gordon, who is 3 years older than me and works for a transportation company, used to deliver goods to the deli where I worked. His friendly demeanor led to a close relationship, and although our meeting was quite romantic, married life hasn't been the fairy tale I'd hoped for. Gordon, using work as an excuse, never helped with household chores. Despite the fact that I'm a full-time worker at the deli, I'm not a stay-at-home mom. We had our eldest son, Mark, but Gordon rarely helped with his upbringing. Men get praised for simple acts with their children, while women juggle work and household duties without much recognition. Isn't it oppressive how society expects mothers to naturally handle everything? Mark was a good kid until high school, but after he started working, he became increasingly sarcastic, especially over the past 2 years. He's been coming home late and ignoring me, but strangely, he and Gordon get along very well and even mock me together. "Mark, what kind of job are you doing now?" "I work for an ID company." "There are many types of ID companies, right? You wouldn't get it anyway," he replies with a smirk, clearly annoyed by having to explain. Maybe, at 25, Mark doesn't feel like detailing his job to me. Sometimes, I get so angry with him that it scares me. Am I lacking maternal instincts? There's a concept of unconditional love. When Mark was a baby, I felt a deep, intense love for him. Seeing his cute sleeping face made me feel I could do anything for him. But now, with the sarcastic man he has become, My unconditional love feels like it's fading. I find myself expecting something in return for the love I give, both from Gordon and Mark. After 26 years of marriage, I can say I've been happy only about 2 years ago. Gordon and Mark started teaming up to criticize my cooking. I don't think my skills suddenly worsened, and I don't remember cutting corners. I always consider nutritional balance, budget, and their favorite dishes. Planning meals is hard enough without having my efforts criticized. Tonight, I made Gordon's favorite Chinese stir-fry. I hoped he'd be pleased, but he shouted, "What is this? Is it not good? It's too salty. You said it was too bland yesterday." Gordon pointed at me accusingly. "Can't you find a middle ground? It's always one extreme or the other with you." Yet, he continued to eat, exaggerating, "So salty." Mark just ate in silence. "How about you, Mark?" I often go to fancy restaurants in Akasaka and Ginza with my boss, so I've become a bit of a gourmet. Everything tastes good to me now. I worry about the woman who might marry someone as sarcastic as me, even if he's my own son. As Gordon continued to complain about the saltiness, he finished his meal, followed by Mark. Feeling stressed, I decided to have a meal with my best friend Juliet on my day off. Juliet, who is also 50, went through a divorce 2 years ago. Her ex never lifted a finger around the house but had the audacity to point out a dirty window or some dust. Juliet told me she lost her temper and hit him with a hanger. Talk about guts. When I mentioned Gordon and Mark, Juliet got angry as if it were her own situation. "Why don't you just tell him to cook for himself and hit him with a frying pan?" "I can't say that. If I did, he'd just get stubborn and insist on cooking. He'd probably realize how hot cooking is if he tried it himself. I wouldn't dare eat anything Gordon cooked." Juliet laughed heartily. "But for me, it's a real concern. Since becoming single, I've become quite popular at work. It's your life. You're living just for your husband and kids. You're only 50. Emma, don't give up because of age. Life begins at 50. I get asked out for dinner by male colleagues often now, probably because I'm single." Juliet looked radiant. Her confidence and positivity were inspiring. Is the ideal mother and wife someone who puts her kids first, her husband second, and herself last? Society's norms aren't always correct. Before being a mother or a wife, you're an individual. Life is more enjoyable when you live for yourself. I was taken aback. "You're intense." "Don't call me intense. I'm just normal." Dinner time is always tense for me. In most households, it's a time for family bonding and happiness. Tonight, I made Mark's favorite curry rice, but after one bite, Gordon shouted, "What the heck is this? It's way too sweet. Who makes sweet curry?" Trying to keep my disappointment in check, I asked Mark, "Is it too sweet?" "I prefer spicy or medium spicy, but more importantly, I know this amazing curry place. It's not fair to compare a home cook to a Michelin star chef. I don't cook just to hear Gordon's harsh words and Mark's sarcastic comments without considering my feelings." Gordon sighed. "Oh, my mom's curry rice was the best, just like home." I wanted to tell him to have his mother cook for him every day, but I held back, afraid it would only make things worse. At work, while I was helping a customer, my manager, Mr. Smith, gave me a compliment. "Mrs. Taylor, your customer service is always so cheerful and genuine. It's really impressive." "Thank you so much," I replied. A kind word can make all the difference. Positive feedback can lift your spirits and make the effort feel worthwhile. In retail, good customer service is essential. When prices are the same, customers will always prefer to return to a place where they're treated well. Mr. Smith is 54, single, and still appears open to the idea of marriage. At 6 feet tall, he's quite the gentleman and a hit among the younger female staff. Being single at his age doesn't diminish his charm. Perhaps he has high standards or remains haunted by a past romance. His air of mystery only adds to his appeal. Despite being 50, Mr. Smith treats me with the same kindness he shows to the younger women, which I appreciate. I can't help but wonder about Gordon and Mark's behavior at work. If Mark is as sarcastic with his colleagues as he is at home, he's likely not very popular. And I worry about Gordon, whether he bullies subordinates or harasses female colleagues. I just hope he never gets into serious trouble. During the usual tense dinner time, Gordon and Mark were engrossed in a TV show featuring family restaurant staff presenting their best dishes, judged by top chefs. Gordon suddenly said, "Don't you ever think of going on this show?" Why would I? I'd probably fail, I answered. They'd likely say, "Are you trying to poison us?" and toss you off the show, he joked. Should we order pizza tonight? I suggested, trying to change the subject. Pizza? I'm in the mood for hamburger steak. Let's get takeout from the family restaurant. Gordon's tone shifted when he heard my suggestion. What's with the attitude? Even I have my limits. Mark joined in, laughing. I'll sing, "I Want You Back," in full chorus. I wasn't amused. What? I want you back? Do you even know anything about what's going on? They can have their fun. I felt isolated and lonely. Juliet's face came to mind, and the thought of divorce crossed my mind again. Later that evening, Mr. Smith called me over. Emma. Huh, oh, sorry, Mrs. Taylor, I said with a smile. If you want to call me that, it's fine, he replied. Oh, really? I said, momentarily caught up in a dreamy thought as a love song seemed to play in my mind. I quickly pushed the thought aside. Life isn't that simple. Things rarely go as planned. There are several young, attractive women in their 20s at work. I'm probably not even on Mr. Smith's radar. As expected, Mr. Smith wanted to talk about work, not dinner. Actually, there's talk of our store making a TV appearance. It's a show where family restaurants and delis showcase their signature dishes, and a chef judges them. I know your husband and son are fans of the show. This time, the theme is lunch combos, and we're having an internal tasting session to select our representative. We'd like you, Emma, to represent us. I was taken aback and immediately declined. My husband and son criticize my cooking every day. Mr. Smith thought for a moment. Do they leave food on their plates? No, they always finish it. I have a friend who's never satisfied, no matter how good the restaurant. Maybe Gordon and Mark are like that. We need someone who cooks daily. Would you consider creating a menu for us? Though the responsibility was daunting and my confidence low, I felt a strong desire to prove myself. I wanted feedback from someone other than Gordon and Mark. I took the challenge seriously and prepared a lunch combo. The company's top executives tasted it and unanimously approved it, while my colleagues were thrilled. I felt a mix of shock and resentment towards Gordon and Mark. Despite their constant criticism, everyone else loved my dish. I couldn't understand why they belittled my cooking. Was it just for sport? Furious, I left work early and went to the city office, keeping my selection for the TV show a secret from Gordon and Mark. That night, I made shrimp scampi. On the table, there were 2 cards labeled pass and fail. After tasting the shrimp, Gordon and Mark exchanged glances and both raised the fail card. Clearly, it was a miss. I was disappointed. Were they pretending to be judges? Was it fun to mock me? I grabbed the cards and confronted them. You fail as a husband. What are you trying to do? You fail as a son too. I'm done with your constant negativity. I placed the divorce papers on the table. I'm filing for divorce. Wait, Gordon protested. I've waited 25 years. I can't wait any longer. 25 years? Well, maybe not that long, but I've been patient for the past few years. I can't take it anymore. I'm leaving this house. Gordon, in shock, tried to laugh it off. It's some sort of camera prank, right? Where's the camera? Mark asked, pretending to search. Dad, she seems serious, Mark warned him. Really, I am, I said. Congratulations, you won't have to eat bad food anymore, I added. A whirlwind of change followed. I moved out quickly and started living on my own. Juliet's support was invaluable. Without the burden of my ungrateful husband and indifferent son, I could focus on my job. Sometimes, significant changes can shift many things. The company asked me to appear on TV. No way, I can't do TV. You should get someone younger and prettier. That's how TV works. While part of me wanted to do it, I worried about how I'd look on screen. The show would involve the chief judge asking detailed questions about the dish. If it's not the person who made it, they won't be able to answer. I understand, Mr. Smith said. However, convinced by the executives, I agreed to the TV appearance. I didn't inform Gordon and Mark. I blocked their calls and had no intention of contacting them. Of course, I told Juliet about the TV appearance. She was shocked and said, I want to be on it too. With teary eyes, I appeared on TV with Mr. Smith. It was my first time. and my heart raced with nervousness. Watching the stern-faced chef taste my lunch combo, I felt as though I should apologize before the judgment. This bolognese has Worcestershire sauce, ketchup, and instant coffee, I thought nervously. When judgment time came, I held my breath as the judges unanimously raised the pass card. They even praised the dish as delicious and perfect. I high-fived Mr. Smith, my cheeks flushed with happiness. I hoped it wasn't just a dream. After the successful TV appearance, I became involved in product development and received a raise. Was it sheer luck that things improved after leaving behind a rude husband and a sarcastic son? 3 months post-divorce, Mark visited the store, looking like a football player with his new bulk. "What happened to you?" I asked in surprise. "I've been eating out a lot since I haven't been eating at home. It seems I've bulked up without realizing it." Serves him right. It's probably karma for mocking food that a top chef praised. "I saw you on TV." Dad was shouting in disbelief. Mark said, "I'm glad you saw it, but please, don't come back." I replied coldly, "You're 25, handle your own life. If you don't want to be with Dad, then be independent. Don't come here again." Mark, clearly shocked by my firmness, left. The next day, while placing an umbrella stand outside the store, a large man approached. "Emma, who are you?" "Don't play dumb," I said, recognizing Gordon, who had gained a significant amount of weight. "Because of you, I've been eating and drinking at pubs every day. Before I knew it, I could barely move." "You have no right to call me that anymore," I said firmly. Gordon tried to laugh it off. "Emma, please come back. At this rate, Mark and I will turn into Crusher Blackwell." "Crusher Blackwell? You don't know who he is?" He was a 215-kilo wrestler. His jokes seemed to show no remorse. "I don't want to waste my time talking to you. Please leave." Despite my harsh words, Gordon persisted. "I apologize for everything, truly." Even as he apologized, I remained silent. "Your cooking was always amazing. My mother told me never to praise someone too much. If you keep saying something's delicious, they won't improve." "Wait, where are you going?" Before Gordon could finish his apology, I retreated into the store. To my surprise, he followed me in. "Wait, we were in the middle of a conversation." "I have nothing more to say. If you keep pushing, I'll call the police." "The police?" Gordon glanced around dramatically. "Why involve the police in a marital issue? We're not married anymore. Just give me one more chance," he begged. Suddenly, Mr. Smith emerged from the back room. "I've already called the police. Maybe you should leave." "Who are you?" Gordon asked, looking confused. "I'm the manager here. Why are you interfering in a marital dispute?" Mr. Smith asked. Gordon, with his usual exaggerated gestures, pointed at Mr. Smith and me. "I get it now. Is that why you divorced? Are you two together?" "Enough." His rude insinuation made me furious. "What nonsense are you talking about? I won't tolerate it." "Is it true? Is that why you're so upset?" Gordon pressed. Just then, a police car pulled up, and 2 solid officers walked in. "That's him," one officer said, pointing at Gordon. "What's going on?" Gordon resisted as one officer tried to restrain him. "Let me go, she's my wife," Gordon protested. "I don't know this man," I said, feeling overwhelmed. "So you're denying him now?" the officer said. "We'll sort this out at the station." The other officer assisted in restraining Gordon, who, surprisingly, had the strength of a wrestler. Enraged and jealous, Gordon's face twisted into a menacing scowl as he grabbed one of the store's umbrellas. I was taken aback, but Mr. Smith bravely stepped in front of me, arms outstretched, as if trying to shield me. "Are you showing your true colors?" Gordon shouted, raising the umbrella to strike an officer from behind. The officer swiftly knocked it away and seized Gordon's wrist. "You're under arrest for obstructing official duties." "Obstructing official duties?" Gordon exclaimed, clearly shocked. "You think that excuses everything? Just come with us." "Emma, Emma, help!" Gordon's desperate cries echoed as the crowd gathered. I felt my cheeks flush with embarrassment as the commotion drew everyone's attention. Gordon was pushed into the police car, and I watched in silence. "How embarrassing," I muttered. "Are you okay?" Mr. Smith asked, concern evident in his voice. "I'm fine, thank you." If you ever need anything, don't hesitate to ask, he offered kindly. Thank you, you're very kind. I'm not kind to everyone, Mr. Smith replied with a cryptic smile before leaving. Maybe it wasn't a misunderstanding after all. Since that day, neither Gordon nor Mark visited the store. After 26 years of marriage, I finally had peace. I enjoyed lunch dates with Juliet and relished dinners alone, never feeling lonely. Work was fulfilling, and being appreciated by the company was a boost. One day, Mr. Smith approached me with a slightly nervous smile. Emma, do you like music, musicals? I do, I replied. I have 2 tickets. While movies are easy to catch anytime, plays have specific dates. I noticed Mr. Smith was sweating a little, stirring up memories of my youth and making my heart race. Maybe this isn't a misunderstanding after all. I love musicals. I'd love to go, I said. Great, I was planning to go with a friend, Mr. Smith said, revealing his joke. What? I asked, surprised. Just kidding, how about dinner afterward? Mr. Smith suggested, relieved. Seeing his genuine smile, I returned it warmly. Life is unpredictable, and now, I'm embracing a new chapter of possibilities. Oh, sorry, I thought you were rummaging through trash, Emma said with a triumphant smile, oblivious to the fatal mistake she had just made. My name is Sally. I'm 32 years old and work as a seamstress at a TV and film studio, repairing and altering costumes. The outfits I handle range from extravagant period pieces to everyday clothes for modern shows. My job involves adjusting designs to match the era, tailoring them to fit the actors, and mending any damage caused during filming. Although my primary role is to fix costumes, my true passion lies in sewing. I even create garments from scratch, a skill I learned from my mother at a young age. This job feels like my calling. The hours are irregular, and the demands can be tough, but I love my work and hope to stay in this field forever. It was at the studio that I met my husband, Joe. He worked as a caretaker for the actors. We're 3 years apart, and as we saw each other every day, our relationship naturally grew. 2 years after meeting, amidst our busy schedules, we eventually got married. We started our new life together, but just as it began, my mother suddenly fell ill and passed away, forcing us to postpone our wedding. Initially, we had planned a simple ceremony at a local church with just our families, but with the delay, we decided to save up for a proper wedding and honeymoon. Given our erratic work hours, we thought it would be wasteful to rent a house just to sleep in, so we moved in with Joe's mother, Emma, at his family home. Both Joe and I had lost our fathers early in life, and Joe worried about his mother being alone. I wanted to get along with Emma, but in hindsight, that was the beginning of a nightmare. Emma saw me not as her son's wife but as an intruder who had taken him away from her. As soon as we moved in, the harassment began. Sally, what's this? It's filthy here, there, and everywhere. What kind of upbringing did you have? Your parents must have been something else. I tried to keep up with the cleaning, even as my hands cracked and bled from the effort. The demands for perfection in household chores were relentless. Cleaning, laundry, cooking, if anything was even slightly off, no matter how exhausted I was, she would make me redo it without a care. The more tired I became, the worse her harassment got. No matter how perfectly I did something, she always found a flaw. I remember spending entire nights scrubbing the sink, as nothing I did ever seemed to please her. Emma ordered me to handle all the household chores, struggling to balance work and chores. I eventually arranged to work from home, but this only increased Emma's demands. Day in and day out, I felt like Cinderella, endlessly toiling away. Is the laundry done? The curtain upstairs is torn. Fix it. You're good at sewing, aren't you? Emma, I'm sorry, I have urgent work. Can't the curtain wait until the weekend? What are you talking about? If it's left like that, who knows what the neighbors will say? Fix it now. I found myself doing housework while trying to work, or rather, working while trying to keep up with housework. Many nights I had to stay up because the chores never ended. Emma seemed to take pleasure in watching me grow more and more exhausted. She was a perfect sadist, finding joy in torturing me with her demands, especially when Joe wasn't around. Our relationship became one of a master and a servant. I handled all the chores, driven by pride and unable to confide in Joe easily. I tried my best to fulfill my role, but the mental strain of enduring her harassment was far more taxing than the physical labor. Occasionally, Emma would invite the neighbors over for lunch, and those gatherings were pure torment. Emma became even more critical in front of them. From their conversations, I could hear them badmouthing me. Honestly, she's such a terrible daughter-in-law. I have to teach her every single day. My son might be blind to it, but I'm not fooled. She's so unlikable and completely lacking in common sense. The neighbors would laugh in agreement, and I couldn't help but think, who's really the one lacking common sense? The housework might end eventually, but their cruel words lingered, weighing heavily on my heart. I felt like I was reaching my breaking point every day. If things kept going like this, I worried I might lose my mind. But that wasn't the only issue. Jo had an older sister, Sarah, who was 38. She lived with her boyfriend in a nearby town. If I had to describe Sarah in one word, it would be stingy. She'd come over for lunch almost every day, likely just to save money. The worst part was her unannounced visits. Since I never knew when she'd show up, I couldn't prepare a portion for her. She would casually eat my food and then leave. Everything she saw as hers, including anything at her parents' house. She'd just take whatever she wanted. Perfect. I was just running out of Kleenex. I'll take these. But Sarah, I just bought those for Emma. Then she'd give me a glare. What are you talking about? You're home all the time, aren't you? Just go buy more. Like mother, like daughter. It was a wonder Jo turned out as well as he did. The biggest problem was when she would take ingredients meant for dinner without asking. Every time, I had to stop what I was doing to go shopping again. One day, I couldn't take it anymore. Sarah, could you please let me know before you take something? Apparently, she complained to Emma about it. Did you tell Sarah not to come over anymore? What? No, I didn't say that. So you're saying Sarah's lying? Caught between Sarah's lies and Emma's cruelty, I was overwhelmed. Dealing with Emma alone was hell, but adding Sarah to the mix made the mental strain unbearable. One day, as I passed by the room where they were talking, I overheard them speaking loudly enough for me to hear. It's like having a free maid. How nice. I'm jealous. Send her to my house too. A maid? Am I not a daughter-in-law? I had felt like a maid, but hearing it said out loud was unbearable. Something inside me snapped. That night, I finally poured out my feelings to Jo. I can't do this anymore. I've been patient, but I can't live with Emma any longer. Please, I want to live somewhere else. After a moment of silence, Jo replied, okay, we've saved enough money. Let's move out soon. Really? I'll start looking for a place right away. Tears of relief streamed down my face. Unbeknownst to us, Emma was standing just outside our room. Little did we know, this would lead to her bizarre behavior later on. From that day on, the oppressive days suddenly began to feel brighter. I had one dream, to wear a wedding dress I made myself for our wedding. After all, sewing was my profession. Filled with new motivation after talking with Jo, I immediately ordered a large amount of fabric online. I decided to focus on making the dress as my new purpose. I began sewing the dress in secret, away from Emma and Sarah. But one day, Sarah, who often dropped by unannounced, caught me. Wow, what's this dress? It's nice to have your own dress. Hey, Sally, I'm getting married in 2 months. Make my dress too. Really? Yes. Renting one is just a waste of money. I want to keep the wedding costs low. So please. Typical Sarah, always looking to save money. I hesitated but agreed since she offered to cover the material costs. I started making Sarah's dress first since our wedding was still some time away. Sarah insisted, keep this a secret from Mom. She planned to tell Emma she was renting the dress to get financial support from her. Whatever she paid me for the materials, she was determined to recoup. Her level of stinginess was almost impressive. I even brought the situation up with Jo. His response was, you know how my sister is. Once she's made up her mind, she never backs down. I'm sorry, but it would really help if you could make the dress for her. Wanting to stay positive, I smiled and replied, leave it to me, I'll do my best. Since I was getting paid for the work, I felt motivated. I saw it as good practice for making my own dress without having to spend on materials. Plus, I had a small hope that this might help improve my relationship with Sarah. So, I threw myself into dressmaking, juggling it between housework and my regular job. Even Emma seemed to notice what I was up to. She would occasionally peek into my room. As Sarah's wedding day drew nearer, the dress was almost complete. Then, one day, Emma came into my room with an unusual smile. You're working hard again today, aren't you tired? Yes, a little. Her sudden change in demeanor was unsettling. I'm going to make some coffee. Why don't you take a break? Really? That would be great. Thank you. No problem at all. I'll bring it to you in a bit. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. As Emma left, humming to herself, a strange unease settled over me. Emma offering to make coffee for me. That had never happened before. Could there be something more sinister behind it? Different thoughts raced through my mind. But worrying wouldn't do any good. I decided to focus on my work instead. I was just adding the final touches of lace. The dress was nearly finished. Despite it being Sarah's dress, I found myself putting real care into it. Suddenly, I caught the scent of coffee. Emma knocked on the door. Sally, may I come in? Oh, what is it? The next moment, I was shocked. Emma entered with a tray piled high with cups and saucers, all filled with coffee. Emma, wait. This wasn't just for two. It looked like she was preparing for a whole group. The tray was so heavy that her arms trembled. Instinctively, I moved to stop her from coming any further. Oops, Emma pretended to trip. The sound of cups shattering and coffee splashing everywhere filled the room. For a moment, I couldn't comprehend what had just happened. Everything seemed to move in slow motion. When I looked down, I saw that my yellow-colored dress was now stained with a giraffe-like pattern of coffee. Ah! I screamed involuntarily, and I didn't miss the brief smile that flickered across Emma's face. Oh no, I'm so sorry. It wasn't on purpose. Did you get burned? Wait, is that a dress? I thought you were going through trash. I was speechless, frozen by the shock of her actions. Then Emma feigned concern. Oh dear, you can't have your wedding like this, can you? My suspicions turned into certainty. Emma was trying to sabotage our wedding. She wanted to ruin our plans to move out after the wedding, but I couldn't afford to be angry now. I rushed to the bathroom with the stained dress, frantically trying to rinse the coffee off. I knew the stain would set if I didn't act quickly. Emma watched with a malicious grin. Need any help? No, I'm fine, I replied coldly, struggling to contain my anger and panic. Then someone appeared behind Emma. What's this? Are you bullying Sally again? It was Sarah. No, I just accidentally spilled coffee on her dress, Emma said, clearly enjoying herself. This was bad, but then the situation took an unexpected turn. What? Are you serious? That's my dress. Wait, what? Emma was suddenly speechless. Yours? Sarah, what do you mean? I can't believe this. I had her make my dress. What am I going to do? My wedding is in 2 weeks. Emma panicked like I'd never seen before. There's no way. As I listened to their ridiculous exchange, I continued to wash the dress I had spent months working on for Sarah. While scrubbing the fabric, I realized that Emma must have assumed the dress was for me. If she had known it was for Sarah, she would have had no reason to ruin it. Joe and I had planned to leave this dreadful family home after our wedding. To Emma, I was always the thief who had stolen her beloved son. She couldn't bear the thought of the woman she saw as nothing more than a maid taking him away. In her mind, sabotaging our wedding would keep him home. Such petty thoughts had driven her to these bizarre actions. Sarah was livid, directing her fury at Emma. How could you do this? Everything's ruined. I can't believe my own mother would destroy my wedding. I'm sorry, Sarah, please forgive me. I didn't know it was your dress. You don't think I did it on purpose, do you? Emma's true feelings finally slipped out. I pretended not to hear as I continued washing the dress, but I couldn't block out their voices. So, you thought it was Sally's dress and deliberately stained it? A man's voice echoed through the room. Everyone turned at once. Joe, when did you get here? Is that really what happened, Mom? Joe stood there, his expression a mix of disbelief and disappointment. I had been so focused on washing the dress and listening to their argument that I hadn't even noticed Joe's arrival. He had been silently observing the ugly confrontation between his mother and sister. When he finally spoke, his voice was calm but tinged with sorrow. You saw Sally working tirelessly on that dress every night, and yet you deliberately ruined it. That's truly despicable. It's not like that. This is. Don't make excuses. Joe's sudden shout startled both Emma and Sarah. Emma, in particular, seemed shocked to hear her cherished son raise his voice at her. Joe continued, his tone now softer but filled with deep sadness. I'm so disappointed. Mom, Sally has been enduring your behavior all this time, hoping that one day you might change. She's been patient for my sake because you're my mother. Tears welled up in my eyes as I listened. I had sometimes seen Joe as indecisive, too submissive to his mother, but I realized now that I was wrong. Here stood a man determined to protect the woman he loved. Seeing Joe's unwavering stance in this situation made me fall in love with him all over again. He turned back to Emma. And now it's come to this. I can't just overlook it. Mom, Sally and I are leaving as soon as possible. I plan to stay here until the wedding for your sake, but I can't stay any longer. Today it was just a dress, but what if it's something worse next time? Sally could be in real danger, and I won't wait until it's too late. Danger? I would never put her in danger. How can you say that after ruining all of Sally's hard work so casually? Joe's anger was controlled but intense. This was his mother, after all, and instead of lashing out with harsh words, he quietly expressed his deep disappointment. His expression was something I had never seen before, an anger mixed with an indescribable sadness, as if he were denying everything about the woman who had always doted on him. Emma appeared deeply shaken. She was left speechless and in tears, an unusual sight for someone who usually spoke sharply. Sarah looked on in stunned silence, her gaze shifting between Joe and Emma. Soon after, Sarah canceled her wedding. With the dates so close, she couldn't recover any of the costs. It's not my fault. Emma paid for everything, Sarah claimed, so she wasn't financially affected. Emma seemed to finally realize the extent of her thoughtless actions, and the impact of Joe's scolding had left her emotionally drained. But the fallout extended beyond our home. Sarah's sudden cancellation enraged her fiancé and his family, leading to a breakup. Sarah continued to blame Emma for the breakdown of her relationship. After we moved out, Emma began reaching out to us, asking for money. It became clear that her reluctance for us to leave had financial motives. While living together, we had contributed to household expenses, but Emma had only her pension as income and had been relying on our support. Each time she called for money, Joe stood firm in refusing. Mom, why don't you get a job? There are plenty of opportunities out there. We need to be independent, both you and us. Please, leave us alone. Emma pleaded not to be abandoned, but Joe remained resolute. His determination seemed to come from a deep sense of responsibility. Eventually, Emma found work as a janitor. Given her strict standards for cleanliness, the job suited her in a somewhat ironic way. Sarah, after ending her relationship and moving out, returned to live with Emma. She stopped working entirely, depending on Emma's part-time income and pension. The next time I saw her, she had gained a significant amount of weight. Joe and I settled into our new apartment and are now enjoying a life free from snide remarks and sarcasm. Our new life is a far cry from the dysfunction of the old family home. We've set a date for our wedding, opting for a small, intimate ceremony with just friends and colleagues, intentionally excluding Emma and Sarah. We wanted to avoid any potential disturbances, particularly given their current struggles. It was a necessary choice given the circumstances they created. I've begun working on a new wedding dress for the occasion, one that will be even more beautiful than the one ruined by coffee stains. Now that the baby's here, let's throw a baby shower. It's your first grandchild, so don't hold back on the gift money. Feeling proud, I handed over an envelope with some cash inside, only to be met with a sharp retort. Just $300? Are you kidding me? That won't even cover the cost of diapers. Stunned, she turned pale and began to shake. My name is Olivia, and I'm a 57-year-old office worker. My husband, John, runs an auto repair shop with our son-in-law, Mason, who married our eldest daughter, Ava. They specialize in luxury cars, and the business has been thriving. With a constant flow of work from high-end dealerships and substantial fees for repairs and inspections, Mason often says with a smile, "You're a natural at business. I've got a lot to learn from you." Mason and Ava have been married for 5 years. Mason, originally just an average office worker with a passion for cars, earned his mechanic certification and began working with John. Although we don't live with our daughter and son-in-law, Ava recently started helping out at the garage as a secretary, so we see them almost every day. Our home and the shop are close by, and I often stop by, so the four of us spend a lot of time together. Mason is outgoing and easy to get along with. He feels like a real son to us. We do have a biological son, William, but ever since he moved away for work, we rarely see him. William is 2 years younger than Ava and never showed much interest in his father's business. After college, he joined a regular company. When he was in elementary school, he used to say, "When I grow up, I'll take over Dad's shop." But as he got older, his attitude changed. "You can't make a living working at a repair shop these days, and I don't want to be covered in grease either." John never planned for William to take over the business, but when William made it clear he wasn't interested, John looked a bit disappointed. John had hired a few employees and was thinking about the future of the shop when Mason came on board. It seemed like he was starting to consider what would happen if there were no one to take over. He was planning to give the employees a heads up to start looking for other work, but with Mason around, John now intends to leave the business in capable hands. Ava never expected Mason to take over her father's business, but when it happened, she was surprised and relieved. "I knew Mason loved cars, but I never thought he'd become Dad's apprentice and take over. But since William wasn't interested, it's all worked out, right? With my husband's business doing so well, Ava keeps asking if William might change his mind and ask to take over the shop later." Ava had every reason to be concerned. William's wife, Emma, has a rather rough edge to her. William and Emma were married 2 years ago, and from the very first time they visited our home to introduce Emma, she made quite an impression. As soon as they arrived, Emma looked around and said, "This is a real working-class home, isn't it? Is this what self-employed people's houses are like?" My husband and I were so stunned that we didn't know how to respond. Ava, who was there with us, was furious and immediately shot back, "Who do you think you are, talking like that to your fiancé's parents?" But Emma held her ground, saying, "I'm just being honest. Stop attacking me before we're even married." I tried to calm the situation and move forward with the introduction, but William added, "Just because we're getting married doesn't mean we'll live here or depend on you." It was clear William wasn't happy with how close Mason had become to his father and how well he fit into our family. Since Ava and Mason's marriage, William had seemed even more distant. Mason had chosen not to join us that day out of respect, but William couldn't resist making a snide comment, "Ava's husband isn't here, huh? I was worried he might show up all greasy and dirty like usual. Glad to see he's not around." Although William had made it clear he wouldn't take over the family business, it was hard not to think he resented Mason, who, despite not being related by blood, would likely inherit the shop. William's words made me angry, and I snapped, "Are you jealous of Mason? You were the one who didn't want to take over your father's shop." My usually calm husband intervened, saying, "Let's not get upset, everyone. William's fiancée is here to introduce herself, so let's try to get along." Since this was supposed to be a happy occasion, I tried to rein in my frustration, but then Emma said, "It doesn't bother me. I have no intention of getting along with you anyway." She spoke to us as if she were looking down on us. Just as my husband had managed to calm Ava and me, we felt our anger rising again. We both glared at Emma, but she seemed to find it amusing. "You common folk get angry so easily. As someone from an upper-class family, I've never had to feel that way," she said, with a smug smile, bragging about her background. From what William had told us, Emma's father was a company director, which seemed to be why she looked down on us. The thought of having someone like her as a daughter-in-law weighed heavily on us. Even my husband, who had been trying to keep the peace, seemed to realize this wasn't going to work. He suggested to William and Emma, "How about we call it a day? This was just an introduction, after all." They quickly left, and after they were gone, Ava was still seething. Who does she think she is? Just because her father is a company director, she acts like she's better than everyone else. She can't get too full of herself. Even my husband, who had been trying to keep us calm, seemed shocked and said, "William sure has his hands full with that one. I'm worried about what's to come." With a sigh, he told us about how difficult Emma had been during the wedding preparations. The day before the wedding, she had come to our house and said, "Make sure you wash up well, future father-in-law, since you work at a mechanic shop, and wear something that won't embarrass you, future sister-in-law. You do know you're the unattractive sister, right? So at least try to look presentable." She delivered her remarks with a smug tone. I was on the verge of snapping back at her, but my husband calmly replied, "Understood. We'll make sure not to cause any trouble." Emma seemed caught off guard by his polite response. It was clear she had been hoping to provoke us and watch our anger flare, but my husband's calm demeanor left her uncertain, and she left with a look of dissatisfaction. At the wedding the next day, Emma approached our family and said, "It's embarrassing to be related to you, so please try not to draw attention. Also, this area smells oily, must be because of you." She delivered her usual snide comments. Mason, meeting Emma for the first time, looked at her with a curious expression and remarked, "I'd heard stories, but she's even worse than I imagined." Normally, Mason wears his hair long and has a beard, but on that day, he had trimmed his hair and wore a suit, leaving Emma with nothing to criticize. Still, a part of me wished he had shown up in his usual work clothes, just to see how she would have reacted. After the wedding, we didn't hear from William at all. Concerned, I said, "I hope William's doing okay," to which my husband replied, "No news probably means he's fine." I was worried too, but we knew reaching out might anger his wife. "Let's wait for them to contact us," my husband suggested, sounding resigned. Given that they had made it clear during their visit that they didn't want to associate with us, it felt difficult to reach out, and so, 2 years passed without any word from William. Yet, whenever my husband, Ava, Mason, and I gathered for a meal, Emma's behavior at the wedding inevitably came up. "I don't think Emma knew who I was," Mason said one evening. "No one introduced me to her. She probably just thought I was some scruffy relative." Laughing, I replied, "It would have been hilarious if you had shown up in your work clothes with your messy hair and beard. She might have tried to throw you out." Everyone burst into laughter. The tension at the wedding had been so thick that no one introduced Mason to Emma, and he'd missed his chance to introduce himself. Now, though, Mason had fully integrated into our family, and it felt like we had gained a wonderful son, even without William. Then, one day, a heavy snowfall caused cars to get stuck everywhere. My husband's shop was flooded with requests for towing, and they were swamped. The employees split up the work to handle the demand. My husband and Mason went out on a call from a foreign car dealer they frequently worked with, but when they returned, both seemed unusually downcast. Ava, noticing this, asked Mason what was wrong, but he just shrugged it off, saying, "Nothing, really." He acted as if nothing had happened, so I didn't think much of it. A few days later, William and Emma suddenly showed up at our house, with Emma holding a baby in her arms. Seeing the baby sleeping peacefully, I couldn't help but smile. Ava, who happened to be visiting, smiled as well and asked, "Emma, you had a baby?" She reached out to touch the baby, but Emma pulled away sharply, snapping, "Don't touch her with your dirty hands, you'll get oil on her." For a moment, the sight of the baby had made me forget, but Emma, even as a mother, hadn't changed a bit. As the familiar tension filled the room, Emma said, "Now that our child is born, let's have a baby shower. Since this is your first grandchild, you should be generous with the gift money." Her voice was dripping with sarcasm. On the spot, I quickly put $300 in an envelope and handed it to her. If I'd had more time, I would have prepared a proper gift, but with their sudden visit, I hadn't had the chance. Emma snatched the envelope from me, immediately opened it, and shouted, "Only $300? Are you serious? That's not even enough for diapers." Her voice was loud and abrasive. To my surprise, my usually mild-mannered husband snatched the envelope back from her, his voice rising in anger. "Don't you dare disrespect us. That child's father isn't even William, is it?" He yelled with a ferocity I had never seen in him before. His words left me utterly confused. What did he mean by saying the child's father wasn't William? Just then, Mason, who had been in the back room, came in, looking puzzled, but when he saw Emma, his expression turned to shock. Emma, too, looked startled and quickly tried to hide her face. My husband, noticing this, said, "Recognize Mason? You should. He's the one who helped tow your fancy minivan during the heavy snowfall. You complained to him then, didn't you? I doubt you've forgotten his face." Ava, William, and I were completely bewildered. My husband continued, "And how's the president you were with that day? Tell him that if he's going to have an affair, he should choose a time when it's not snowing, or he'll get caught." The mention of an affair left us even more baffled, but Emma and William's faces suddenly went rigid, and Ava and I exchanged looks of disbelief. Emma quickly tried to deny it, stammering, "What are you talking about? Heavy snow? An affair? You're not making any sense." but her flustered demeanor was a far cry from her usual confident self. At my husband's cue, Mason pulled out his phone and began navigating through it. Meanwhile, my husband began explaining. On the day of the heavy snowfall, Emma and some company president got stranded in a luxury minivan. Mason and I went to assist them. I didn't recognize Emma at first, but something felt off when I noticed a baby in the car. I was wearing a mask, sunglasses, and a helmet, so she probably didn't recognize me either. However, Mason, even with his long hair and beard, would be hard to forget. As my husband finished, Mason added, "Everything is recorded on our car's dash cam, so she can't deny it." He then showed the video to Emma. The moment she saw the screen, she gasped and quickly turned away. Ava, William, and I leaned in to see what was on the screen. Sure enough, the footage showed Emma and an unfamiliar man angrily shouting at Mason, "We have a baby on board, get a move on, you slacker." The video captured Emma's voice as she yelled while my husband and Mason worked to put chains on the minivan's tires. In the footage, Emma and the man could be seen whispering to each other. With a stern expression, my husband said, "The dash cam doesn't capture sound, but I heard every word. William, you've been fooled into thinking that child is yours. Emma, you're the real fool for discussing your affair right in front of your father-in-law without realizing it." As he spoke, Ava demanded, "Is this true? Tell me now." William suddenly shouted. Emma stammered, "Of course it's a lie," forcing a laugh, but the pallor of her face told a different story. Mason, unfazed by her denial, chimed in, "Didn't you say you divorced William at the perfect time? I clearly remember hearing that. You also mentioned securing child support, sounding pretty pleased with yourself." Mason's words hit hard. Emma's hands started shaking as she held the baby, who began to cry. Seizing the moment, Emma snapped, "Look what you've done. The baby's crying because you're all being horrible to me. I'm leaving." With that, she stormed out, leaving William behind. His face flushed with anger, but as soon as Emma was gone, he seemed to calm down a little. "Dad, is everything you said true?" William asked, needing confirmation. His father nodded silently, and Mason added, "Emma's lover is the president of a company that does business with our shop. I heard from some dealers that Emma accompanied him when he came to buy a car. Apparently, he bought the minivan because they were expecting a baby together." Hearing this, William buried his face in his hands and sank to the floor. Later, a DNA test confirmed that the child wasn't William's. He filed for divorce immediately, but Emma defiantly screamed, "Marrying a commoner like him was my biggest mistake." However, the DNA test also revealed that the child's father wasn't the president, there was another lover involved, adding even more confusion. It turned out that Emma had been cheating with yet another man, and the child was his, but that man was married. William sought compensation in the divorce and also from her two lovers. Despite her family's boasts of being high class, they weren't as wealthy as they appeared and had to borrow money to pay the compensation. Emma's affair with the president stemmed from her desire for a luxurious lifestyle, but her dreams of remarriage with him were shattered. Instead of remarrying, she was hit with a lawsuit for breach of engagement on his part. After ending things with Emma, William developed a deep mistrust of women, declaring, "I'll never get married again," and choosing to live alone. For my husband and me, our hopes of a first grandchild turned out to be a cruel illusion. However, we soon learned that Ava was expecting, bringing us immense joy. Mason, with a playful grin, reassured my husband, "Don't worry, this baby is definitely mine." When the baby arrives, we plan to live together with Ava and Mason. It seems like we're in for a lively and joyful life ahead. Our hotel caters exclusively to celebrities. If you're not affluent, please refrain from visiting. Kindly leave. The manager bluntly declared that guests at a 5-star hotel are often scrutinized based on their appearance. I was reminded of this the following day, though the manager remains unaware of the influence of my in-laws and the future discontent he might face. I'm Maria, a 32-year-old housewife without children. My husband, Stephen, and I met while I was working part-time at a supermarket. From the start, I knew he was a kind and refined individual due to his calm demeanor. However, I was astonished when I visited his parents' home to discuss our wedding. Their residence was so vast it resembled a school playground, enclosed by a heavy gate and high block walls that concealed the property from view. The scene that unfolded beyond the gate was even more surprising. A grand estate, reminiscent of a luxurious villa, stood at the end of a long stone driveway. The meticulously maintained garden beside the house, along with what seemed to be a swimming pool and tennis courts, was astonishing. I found myself questioning what I had gotten into. Stephen was an impressive young man, but how could someone who worked part-time while attending college come from such opulence? Stephen claimed his entire family, his father, mother, sister, and himself, were all heads of successful companies. Despite some celebrities sharing their family businesses, Stephen's family had each independently built their own success. Stephen, too, had followed this path, working part-time and using his earnings to start his own business, which he now aims to expand. My own family is quite ordinary, a father who works for a company, a mother who is a housewife, and a brother who also works in the corporate world. I was filled with doubt, questioning if I was fit to be his wife, yet Stephen remained undeterred. Your openness and warmth drew me to you. You're the only one I want to spend my life with, he said. I chose to trust him and move forward. As for my future in-laws, I was anxious about whether they would accept me, a commoner. To my relief, the family member who greeted me was exceptionally warm and welcoming. They embraced me wholeheartedly, acknowledging that Stephen had brought home a woman for the first time. My father-in-law, in particular, was very complimentary. Maria, you're beautiful with clear eyes. Your manners reflect the careful upbringing by your parents. Stephen's choice is commendable. Both my mother-in-law and sister-in-law were incredibly kind, and by the end of our visit, we had become close friends. My own parents also appreciated Stephen's gentle nature and agreed to our marriage. With everything falling into place, we were happily married. Stephen had recently launched his business and asked me to leave my job to support him as a full-time housewife. We bought an apartment near my in-laws' home and are enjoying our newlywed life, frequently hosting dinner parties and barbecues at their place. Since my in-laws are extremely busy, we have a live-in nanny in her 60s, whom they treat like family. I'm genuinely touched by their kindness. I was feeling at ease, knowing I could be myself without the pressure of living up to my celebrity in-laws' standards. 3 months into our marriage, we decided to host a party for my father-in-law's 60th birthday. Stephen and I wanted to arrange it ourselves as a gesture of appreciation for all they did for us during the wedding. However, since Stephen is busy with work, I would handle the preparations. I discussed it with him, and he said, "Your dad really likes you. Just do what you think is best. I'm sure he'll be happy with whatever you choose." The challenge was figuring out what would be best. I consulted a friend who suggested looking for a high-class hotel. Considering the prestige of the guest of honor, I found a 5-star hotel near my parents' house. Although I had never been to such a luxurious place before, I assumed it would be impressive and wanted to see it firsthand. I decided to visit the hotel to check it out. Nervous about going alone, I invited my high school best friend to join me. I was impressed by the restaurant's courteous service when I called to make a lunch reservation. I dressed formally for the occasion in a white blouse, a tight black skirt, and black pumps, while my friend wore a lovely floral dress and pin-heeled boots. I felt excited, as if embarking on an adventure, unaware of the surprise that awaited us. Upon arrival, I drove my car, a reliable vehicle I had since my single days, and was directed to the hotel's parking lot. The attendant at the roundabout was pleasant and polite. However, I noticed a man in the lobby staring at us with a stern expression. He wore a sharp suit and stood rigidly, suggesting he was a hotel employee. Though I didn't recognize him, his intense gaze puzzled me. The line of luxury cars in the underground parking lot made my car seem out of place, and seeing people arrive in chauffeur-driven vehicles earlier made me feel a bit self-conscious. I thought about hailing a cab, but since I wasn't far from home, it seemed unnecessary. As my friend and I entered the hotel, the man who had been staring approached us. "You don't seem to fit in here. Can I assist you?" he asked politely, though his tone felt rather rude. "I have a lunch reservation here." "What do you mean by unsuitable for the hotel?" I asked, taken aback. I asked the tall man about his comments, and he continued speaking, towering over me with a condescending attitude. "You arrived in a very ordinary car. No one drives that kind of car here," he remarked. He then sneered. "And your clothing is quite," laughing derisively as he said it. I could feel my face flush with embarrassment and irritation at his snobbish behavior. My best friend, unable to meet his gaze, stared at the floor. While many might have felt humiliated and left, I'm not easily intimidated. Though I usually appear quiet, I was determined to confront this rude individual and understand his disdain. "Are you employed by this hotel?" I demanded, glaring at him. "I'm the manager of this five-star establishment," he replied, his tone dripping with arrogance. I thought to myself that emphasizing the 5 stars was absurd. Although I kept my thoughts to myself, his response only fueled my frustration. "Does this hotel judge its guests by their cars and appearance, and adjust its attitude accordingly?" I retorted, refusing to back down. The manager sniffed disdainfully and snorted. "Guests should reflect the hotel's stature. It's important to maintain this standard for the comfort and relaxation of our patrons," he said. I felt my irritation growing. "Are you implying that we're somehow diminishing the value of your hotel?" The manager clicked his tongue in annoyance. I felt bad for my friend and considered canceling our reservation and leaving. Just then, an elderly hotel employee approached us. "Ma'am, I was informed about your lunch reservation," he said, bowing to the manager. "Allow me to escort you to the restaurant." The elderly employee guided us to the restaurant. The manager shot me a resentful look as if he still had more to say. However, the hotel employee was kind and attentive. "I'm sorry for the unpleasant experience you've had. We're known for our exceptional cuisine, and I hope the rest of your visit will be enjoyable," he said warmly. I was surprised to learn that such a young man was managing the hotel. He explained that the owner had retired due to age, and his younger brother had taken over, with his son now serving as the manager. Although the manager had graduated from a prestigious university, he lacked experience in hotel management and was struggling to uphold the hotel's standards. Even longtime patrons seemed to be treated poorly and pressured to leave if they didn't spend enough. The elderly employee sighed. "I've been with this hotel for years, growing alongside it. The new management wants to revitalize everything, and it seems there's no place for someone like me anymore. I'll be leaving at the end of the month. It's disheartening to think that the hotel could neglect those who helped it achieve its 5-star status." Despite the manager's attitude, the food at the restaurant was the best I've ever had. The head chef, who appeared to be around the same age as the elderly employee, came to greet us. I worried that he too might soon be forced out. As my friend and I left the restaurant, satisfied and smiling, the manager approached us again. "I'll be sure to visit your restaurant again," I said as we prepared to leave. However, the manager remained unfazed. "People like you diminish the prestige of this hotel. This is a celebrity hotel, not for the less fortunate. Please leave immediately," he said bluntly. I was too shocked to respond. The hotel was beautiful, but the manager's rudeness made me decide against holding my father-in-law's birthday celebration there. Surely, there must be a more welcoming place nearby. When I told my in-laws about the incident, they were intrigued and asked for the name of the hotel. I told them, and they looked puzzled but still expressed interest. "We should visit that hotel," my father-in-law said. I was surprised by his eagerness to return to a place where I had such a negative experience. To dress appropriately, my father-in-law instructed, and everyone was asked to come in casual attire. He asked us to go ahead and promised to join us later. As soon as we entered, the manager's intense gaze was fixed on us. The lobby was bustling with people lounging on sofas and sipping coffee, and it seemed the hotel was hosting a large event. The manager hurried over as we sat beneath a grand chandelier, waiting for my father-in-law. His anger was palpable as he confronted me. "You've returned, apparently without understanding our standards, arriving in a minivan and dressed so casually. You're a disturbance," he said, still condescending. "We're here to celebrate my father-in-law's birthday, and I made a reservation. You didn't specify any dress code or car type. What's the issue?" I retorted. The argument drew the attention of everyone in the lobby, and the manager's harsh words were met with raised eyebrows from other guests. "I can tell you don't belong here just by how casually you're dressed. You should consider staying at a less reputable inn," the manager snapped. His response was appalling, and other guests seemed to share my discomfort. A hotel should be welcoming to all its guests. "We're here to pay for your services. Your criteria for hospitality are unacceptable," I said, appalled by the manager's treatment. At my protest, voices around me began to murmur, "The customer always comes first. It's not right to judge people based on their appearance." The manager, visibly flustered and red-faced, shouted, "We are a high-class hotel catering to celebrities. If you are not wealthy, please leave." Then let's all go home, my father-in-law declared. What? At my father-in-law's words, many people in the lobby began to rise and head for the exit. They voiced their dissatisfaction, saying things like, "I will never return," and "I won't stay here again." The scene quickly escalated into a commotion, with guests arguing with hotel staff who tried to prevent them from leaving. It turned out that everyone in the lobby was connected to my father-in-law, who had specifically gathered them there. His slight delay had been due to contacting these individuals. My father-in-law had been a loyal guest of the hotel since the tenure of the previous manager. Despite his busy schedule, he often visited the hotel even in his work clothes, drawn by the respectful treatment he received. His company used to host lavish parties at the hotel every year, and he had introduced it to his family, who frequently used the hotel for various events. All members of his family, as company presidents, had high use of the hotel. My mother-in-law often used it to entertain clients, my sister-in-law for executive training, and my husband's company for celebratory events. The hotel had greatly valued their business. As the uproar continued, someone suddenly dropped to his knees, pleading. It was the hotel president, the manager's father. The elderly hotelier from earlier had recognized my father-in-law and urgently contacted the hotel president. The hotel president, deeply apologetic, begged for forgiveness for his son's rudeness and made the manager kneel as well to offer his apologies. "I truly apologize, sir," the hotel president said, "but if you had been a prominent guest, I would have treated you differently. It's unacceptable to use less affluent guests to make reservations." He tried to excuse the behavior. "I found it hard to respond to such a person. You're apologizing to the wrong person. It was my daughter-in-law whom your manager mistreated. She's a kind-hearted girl whom I cherish deeply. You should remember who the hotel is meant to serve. I had a great appreciation for the previous management and was close to them, but now it's time to end that association," he added. We decided to leave the five-star hotel and head to a diner I frequently visit with my family. We chose it to celebrate my father-in-law's 60th birthday. The diner, which has several private rooms and doesn't require reservations, provided an excellent atmosphere and delicious food. My in-laws were thrilled with the warm, cozy setting. My father-in-law suggested inviting my parents as well, and they joined us for a grand and lively celebration. My husband and I covered the costs, and since it's a local diner, it wasn't a significant expense. It reaffirmed our commitment to valuing people over money and avoiding misunderstandings. Later, I heard that the manager was dismissed and demoted to a janitorial position. Despite his new role, he struggled to restore the hotel's tarnished reputation, and the establishment closed 2 years later. When I next passed by the hotel, it was in disarray, broken glass, discarded furniture piled up, and the once grand building had become a neglected wasteland. A single person's misjudgment had shattered the hotel's legacy. Despite this, my father-in-law, who came from a modest background, and I have a strong bond. I enjoy spending time with my husband and in-laws, and now that we're expecting a baby, everyone is eagerly looking forward to the new addition to our family. I caught my husband cheating. It's not something many people actually witness firsthand. Most would probably discover their partner's infidelity by finding suspicious messages on their phone, but I saw it with my own eyes, in a place and at a time I never expected, with so many people around to witness it, too. I'd always had my doubts about their relationship, but I never imagined I'd catch my husband cheating so publicly. My name is Christina, and I'm a stay-at-home mom to our 6-year-old son. The day I saw my husband's betrayal, he had the day off, and we had plans to spend it together as a family, but when I woke up, he was already gone. I received a text from him saying, "I'm taking care of my sister, who's running a fever of 102 degrees. No one else is around, so I'll be back this evening." I let out a heavy sigh. I had promised our son we'd go to the amusement park, and he'd been excited about it since the day before. My husband had been swamped with a major project at work and hadn't taken a break in 6 months. This was supposed to be a rare chance for us to be together, but instead, he chose to tend to his sister. She has a fiancé, so she wasn't exactly alone, but my husband has always had a thing for his sister. In fact, he once told me he started dating me because I reminded him of her, which made me uneasy from the start. I'd met his sister a long time ago. She's beautiful and kind. so maybe looking like her was the highest compliment he could give me, but it still creeped me out. My husband used to say, "I want a boy and a girl," and he was the one who often initiated intimacy. But after our son was born, things changed. Now, there's nothing. We're still young, and he used to enjoy sex, so I can't help but wonder if he's finding it somewhere else. It's one thing to feel betrayed, that's bad enough, but what really hurts is how he just disappears on his days off. Like today. Would it kill him to spend time with our child once in a while? Our son adores him and cries whenever he realizes his dad isn't around. My husband is so distant from our child. He doesn't even bother with birthday gifts or school events, no matter how much free time he has. Sometimes he comes home early, but then he just locks himself in his room and plays games non-stop. He barely even looks at our son anymore. I'm worried that soon, our little boy, who used to idolize his father, will start to see him as a stranger. And about that big project he's supposedly working on, it's all a lie, because he was rarely home. I reached out to an old classmate who works at the same company and asked, "Is my husband really that busy?" They laughed and said, "Busy? No way. He's basically a windowside employee. He barely has any work and always seems bored. He clocks out on time every day." That confirmed what I already suspected. He claimed to be handling a major project, but his salary stayed the same, and he never looked worn out from long hours. In fact, he seemed more well-rested than ever. All of this made me more certain that he was cheating. With a heavy heart, I finished preparing breakfast, but something felt off. I checked the time, it was past 7 a.m., and my son still wasn't up. Normally, he'd be awake by now, even without me having to nudge him. If we didn't hurry, he'd miss the nursery school bus, so I rushed to his room to wake him. When I entered, he was still sound asleep. I gently tried to rouse him, saying, "It's morning, time to wake up." Instead of the usual sleepy response, I was met with a painful groan. My concern grew as I reached out to touch his face and felt his forehead. It was burning hot. I called his name and lightly shook his shoulder. He barely opened his eyes and whispered, "Mom, I can't breathe." Panic washed over me. There had been an outbreak of illness at his nursery school, and I couldn't help but think, could it be that my son has caught it too? I'd heard stories of children succumbing to it, and for a moment, I feared the worst. In desperation, I tried calling my husband, but he didn't answer. I didn't have time to wait for a reply to a message, so I reached out to my mother for advice. She's a nurse, so I knew she'd know what to do. Following her clear instructions, I quickly prepared an ice pillow and took my son's temperature. It was over 102 degrees Fahrenheit. I called for an ambulance and made sure my son drank plenty of water while we waited. My mother mentioned the possibility of heat stroke, so I took every precaution. Due to the risk of infection, I wasn't allowed to ride in the ambulance with him, so I called a taxi to follow them to the hospital. During this time, I kept trying to reach my husband, though I knew it was probably in vain. As expected, he didn't respond. With no other choice, I left a message online, hoping he'd see it and come if he cared enough. When I arrived at the hospital, I waited anxiously in the hallway outside the emergency treatment room, silently praying for my son's recovery. Memories of my father being taken into an emergency room and never coming out alive haunted me. What if my son doesn't make it either? I couldn't stop the terrible thoughts from creeping in. My mother, who had come to support me, gently reassured me, "It'll be okay, it'll be okay." An hour later, the doctor informed us that my son was stable, though they recommended he stay hospitalized for a week. As he was moved to a hospital room, I realized my husband hadn't come home that day. The next morning, I returned home to gather some clothes and decided to bring my son some fruit as a get-well gift. I thought I'd stop by the emergency room to thank the doctor who had helped us, but as I approached, the area suddenly became chaotic. Someone was being rushed in. Not wanting to get in the way, I decided to postpone my thanks and head to my son's room. That's when I noticed a man and a woman being wheeled in on a stretcher. They were barely covered with a thin blanket and seemed almost naked. It looked like they were still joined together, probably stuck during intercourse. I'd never experienced anything like that, but it must be mortifying to be brought in like that. As I tried to pass by, I accidentally made eye contact with the man. Under normal circumstances, it would have been awkward, but this was different. I froze, realizing the man was my husband. "What are you doing here?" I blurted out in shock. Well, I caught my sister's cold and, my husband stammered, clearly struggling for an explanation. I was utterly confused. How could my husband be here, naked and in this situation, just a day after our son was admitted, and who was the woman with him? My mind raced with questions, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. When I made eye contact with the woman my husband was with, I instantly recognized her as his affair partner. Despite my shock, her face looked oddly familiar. Then I heard her voice, and it hit me. She was my husband's sister, Brenna. The moment felt like it was unfolding in slow motion. I had suspected my husband was lying about caring for his sister and meeting someone else, but I never imagined he'd be caught in such a scandalous situation. It was bad enough that he'd been away from our son, but to find him in this compromising position with his own sister was beyond belief. As they were being wheeled away on a stretcher, I had to restrain myself from confronting them. There would be time for that later. For now, I needed to focus on my son, which was why I had come to the hospital in the first place. With a sick feeling churning in my stomach, I spent some time with him, trying to manage my emotions. When I checked my phone, I found dozens of messages from my husband. True to form, they were all attempts to cover his tracks and didn't mention our son's hospitalization at all. I decided to ignore him and waited for another hour. The doctor who had treated my son the day before finally came to see me. He smiled reassuringly and said, "Your son is doing very well. He's recovering faster than we anticipated. His fever has dropped, and his condition has stabilized. Initially, we were concerned about an infection, but it turned out he had heat stroke along with a cold. You did the right thing by making sure he drank plenty of water. Your son must be proud to have such a caring mother." I knew the credit for this largely went to my own mother. I promised myself I'd thank her properly with a special gift next time. I bowed deeply to the doctor, expressing my gratitude, but the relief I felt about my son's health was overshadowed by the anger brewing inside me. "Mama's face is scary," my son remarked, frightened by my demeanor. I quickly forced a smile and told him, "I'll be back soon." Leaving the hospital, I called my husband, who had over 100 missed calls. As soon as he answered, he began to make excuses. "It wasn't what it looked like. There's an explanation," he started. It was clear he had his priorities completely wrong. Shouldn't he be more concerned about our son? A man who could get so caught up in an act with his own sister while neglecting his child clearly wasn't fit to be a reliable partner or parent. With his behavior showing no signs of improvement, I decided that divorce was the best option. It would be difficult, but it was necessary for the sake of my son's well-being and future. "So, you were busy with that even while our son was suffering? I suppose you made time for it whenever you had a free moment, and with your own sister. That's just repulsive," I said. He was at a loss for words. I continued, "By the way, I've already informed your parents about this. I'm not going to tell your company, though. It would be a problem if you couldn't pay alimony and child support, so, this is goodbye." With that, I delivered my final words to my husband. 3 days later, my son's health had improved faster than anticipated, so I completed the discharge procedures and took him home. Naturally, my husband wasn't there. He later came to my home to apologize in person, but I handed him the divorce papers I had already signed. He pleaded for forgiveness, saying, "This was the first time. Please forgive me for just this one mistake. You're all I have." In a cold voice, I responded, "You're still lying. I know everything now. Your sister confessed it all." Knowing he wouldn't easily accept the divorce, I had prepared a strategy to ensure he wouldn't cause trouble. I first approached his sister, who had been involved in the affair. "Dear sister-in-law, I heard you're planning to have a wedding ceremony with your fiancé soon. Congratulations." "Ah, thank you. I wanted to send a congratulatory message, but I came up with an interesting story instead. Would you like to hear it?" "You're not planning to expose this, are you?" "Yes, I want everyone to know what kind of person you are. It will be clear and decisive," I said with a smirk. "Please don't do that, it would ruin my life." Feigning contemplation, I replied with a smile, "Well, I suppose I have no choice. How about this? I'll keep quiet if you tell me exactly how many times you and my husband were together. Then I'll stay silent. Of course, your brother will still feel betrayed. What will you do?" Without hesitation, she confessed everything. Please don't tell him. I'll tell you everything, she said, quickly divulging the details. When I relayed this information to my husband, he was devastated by the betrayal from the sister he cherished most. After regaining his composure, he signed the divorce papers and left the house, heartbroken. I then went through a lawyer to finalize the divorce, seek custody of our son, and demand alimony and child support. Initially, he tried to negotiate, but when I whispered, "Do you want me to?" he quickly agreed to the amount I requested. He left the lawyer's office with a resigned look. After the incident, word got out at my husband's company, leading to his severe reprimand. Within a month, he was fired and now works at a food factory, placing strawberries on cakes to cover alimony and child support. Surprisingly, the factory workers know about his past, and he's become the subject of gossip, particularly among the younger employees, which makes him feel extremely uncomfortable. As for his sister, despite my efforts to keep the details private, the whole scandal was eventually exposed. Her engagement was called off after her ex-fiancé hired a private investigator who uncovered the affair. She faced a substantial compensation demand for the broken engagement and now works at a nightclub. Recently, her ex-boyfriend gave me a photo of them together, saying, "Use it if you need to." While I was taken aback by his audacity, I decided to keep the photo in case my husband tries to contact me or cause trouble. I'll hold on to it as a precaution. I moved back to my parents' house for a fresh start, and they've been incredibly supportive in helping me raise my son. Although my parents live far away and miss seeing their grandson often, they've offered all the assistance they can. I'm mindful not to rely on them too much, only asking for help when necessary. Since his high fever, my son has been in excellent health and has received awards for perfect attendance at school for 3 years straight. It's heartening to see him so happy and to know he has seemingly forgotten about his biological father. I almost forgot to mention our new addition, Angel, the white cat who now snuggles comfortably on my lap. When I went to say goodbye to Angel, who frequently visited my yard, he jumped into my lap and stayed there. I was too attached to part with him, so I brought him to my parents' house. Now, Angel is just as important to me as my son, and he's grown close to my parents. As I sit in the rocking chair on the porch, gently stroking Angel, I reflect on how I want to enjoy watching my son grow up with my parents and our beloved cat by our side. This is the life I'm building, and it fills me with contentment. My name is Tina, and at 35, I'm still single and living at home. My work has consumed so much of my time that turning 35 crept up on me almost unnoticed. My job has become like a companion in its own way. I'm not overly concerned about my situation. Without many hobbies, I spend my days relaxed at home. Then, the doorbell rang, startling me. Who could it be at this hour? What's going on? Mom's reaction through the peephole caught my curiosity. I took a look myself and was stunned to see Mia, my younger brother Andrew's ex-wife. Andrew, who's 5 years younger than me, also lives here but was out working this morning. They divorced 3 years ago, so why is Mia here now? The unexpected visit left all of us, Mom, Dad, and me, baffled. With Andrew not around, what should we do? Maybe we should at least inform him. I'll text him later. Meanwhile, we need to hear Mia out. If it gets awkward, I can handle it. When Andrew and Mia first got married, Mom had a hard time getting along with her. Mia was never rude, but her strong personality clashed with Mom's more accommodating nature. Mom might struggle with this again, so I decided to take the lead. I opened the door and greeted Mia. Hi, it's been a while. Hi, Tina. Yes, it has been a while. I came to talk to Andrew, but since he's not here, well, you can talk to us. I'll make sure to let him know. What's this about? Mia's tone was calm, almost rehearsed. I led her to the living room where Mom and Dad were waiting. We all needed to hear what she had to say. So, what's this about? Mia, what do you need to discuss? I'm sorry to bother you, but I have a favor to ask Andrew. I'd like him to start paying child support. The mention of child support shocked all of us. Andrew and Mia had no children together. Child support? Yes, that's correct. But you two divorced 3 years ago, right? Yes. Have you reconnected since then? No, we haven't spoken since the divorce. Then why child support? Well, I was hoping he could contribute towards the child I'm expecting. We were at a loss for words. Mia seemed unfazed by our confusion, while my parents looked visibly disturbed. I knew I needed to ask more questions to get a better understanding of her request. You know, child support is typically meant for your own child, so if the baby you're carrying were Andrew's, it would make sense for him to pay child support. Oh, I see. I'm sorry. I thought I was entitled to it. My current husband mentioned that I could get it. Mia looked confused, and I couldn't help but wonder what her current husband had told her. I patiently explained that Andrew had no obligation to pay child support since it didn't apply in this situation. That's odd, Mia said. There's nothing odd about it. Wait, did you come here just for this? Well, it's about the baby I'm expecting. I was hoping my ex-husband could contribute for the child's sake. I was taken aback by Mia's unexpected request. Surely anyone would find this situation strange. As I contemplated this, Mia's phone rang. It was her current husband. She stepped to the side to take the call, and it seemed like she was having a disagreement. While I watched, Dad whispered to me, Mia's saying some pretty wild things, isn't she? What should we do? What if she refuses to leave until she gets the money? Well, that can't be right. Why would she ask for money from her ex-husband's family? It was evident that her current husband was somehow involved. As Dad and I discussed this quietly, Mia finished her call and returned, looking more cheerful. I'm so sorry, I made a mistake. Oh, that's good to hear. Everything's sorted now. Then, it wasn't child support, it was actually alimony from the divorce. Dad, Mom, and I were all stunned by this revelation. Mia remained unfazed, smiling brightly. Alimony from the divorce? My current husband is the type who will pursue anything he can get. We remarried a year ago, and before that, we talked about my divorce from Andrew. He said, you didn't get the alimony from the divorce. Wait a minute, so the reason for the divorce was Andrew? I suppose so. I'm not entirely clear on the details. Hold on, I need to check something. I hurried to the bedroom, grabbed my phone, and contacted Andrew. I texted him, did you cheat? And he called me back immediately. Hey, I didn't cheat. What's going on? You know that alimony is usually paid by the person at fault in the divorce, right? Yeah, why is Mia saying these things? I'm trying to figure that out. Did you divorce her due to fault on your part? No, we split up because of personality differences. Neither of us did anything wrong. Alright, I see. I'm coming home now. I'll be there in about 30 minutes. After ending the call with Andrew, I returned to the living room where Dad and Mom looked at me expectantly. I nodded and took a seat on the couch. So, I just spoke with Andrew, and he said that when you two divorced, it wasn't his fault. What do you mean, his fault? Basically, it's the party at fault in the divorce who is responsible for alimony, right Mia? I suppose that's true. We didn't do anything particularly terrible, but we did argue quite a bit. Well, if that's the case, you're fine. Alimony is typically paid by the party at fault to the other. So, Mia, it seems like you might have misunderstood. What? Don't tell me you don't know this. When a woman gets divorced, she's entitled to alimony. At that moment, I was dealing with someone who seemed to believe that alimony was a guaranteed right for women, regardless of the circumstances of the divorce. Her eyes sparkled with a, I'll take what I can get, attitude. It's great to be assertive, but it would have been better if she had done her homework before showing up. That's not how it works. I'm sure I'm not wrong here. My husband said so. Mia, your husband doesn't make the laws. Just then, the front door swung open, and Andrew burst in, looking flustered. Hey, what's going on here? Oh, it's you, Andrew. I didn't expect to see you. I've been hearing from Mom and Tina about this whole child support and alimony issue. And what's that supposed to mean? If you want to pursue this, go ahead, but I'm not paying alimony. I don't owe you anything. What? Stop this right now. I intervened to defuse the situation and turned to Mia. I'll discuss the details with Andrew later, but based on what I'm hearing now, I don't think there will be any money coming to you. What? Why? Didn't you check it out? Just leave for now. Mia, clearly frustrated, made a noise of irritation, slammed the door, and left. About 20 to 30 minutes later. I asked Andrew what led him to divorce Mia. With her attitude, the stress just became too much. That's why we split up. It's more accurate to say our values were completely different. I didn't do anything during our marriage that would warrant alimony, Andrew explained firmly. Later that evening, a loud crash startled me. I rushed outside to find a car speeding away and discovered that part of our flower bed by the front door had been destroyed. It has to be Mia. This kind of ridiculous behavior is exactly why I couldn't stand her. What do you mean? Has this happened before? Andrew had dealt with numerous issues during their marriage. Beyond personality clashes, Mia often caused trouble in the neighborhood, leading Andrew to apologize repeatedly. She was also known for her extravagant spending on beauty treatments and luxury items, draining their savings. Andrew had faced these ongoing problems, which might explain why he felt alimony could be justified in their case. I wanted to divorce her as soon as possible. I didn't want any prolonged relationship with her. While I understood Andrew's frustration, I was upset that he hadn't mentioned these issues earlier. Despite his apologies, I reassured him that he hadn't done anything wrong. I hoped things would calm down, but that wasn't the case. The very next day, Mia was back, ringing our doorbell and shouting, "I found out I can claim alimony, so give it to me now. Don't you care about the child?" For 3 days, we responded through the closed door, but Mia persisted. Then, her current husband started parking his car in front of our house, damaging things with a hammer he brought, and then leaving. This harassment continued for about a week. I'm considering whether we should report this to the police. Oh, sorry, I have some work to do. I need to go to my room. The constant disruptions were affecting my work. I work from home providing web-related services, and although my work is primarily remote, the incessant doorbell ringing had interrupted an important meeting. Hey, Natalie, I've managed to get some work done, but it's been tough with all the interruptions. Have you reported this to the police? My parents don't want to escalate the situation, but I think they're reaching their breaking point. Natalie, my boss, is a successful woman who balances work and child-rearing brilliantly. Her son recently got married, and she seems genuinely happy. You should probably report this. If you let it continue, it could escalate into a serious problem. You're right, it's been a week, and this is definitely affecting my work. It's funny how strange people can be so close to home, isn't it? Do you have anyone like that in your life? Natalie replied, Actually, I do. It's my son's wife. Natalie and I shared a laugh, but her expression suddenly turned serious. Wait, you don't think? I was taken aback by what Natalie said next and quickly proposed a plan. I thought it might be the perfect way to put an end to the harassment. The next morning, the doorbell rang. Peering through the peephole, I saw Mia and a man standing outside. Enough is enough. My husband says we're going to get your divorce settlement. Do you really want to make things worse? The man next to Mia had a wide grin on his face, and Mia continued to bang on the door. I confirmed the situation through the peephole and decided to open it. You really don't know when to stop, do you? Well, I'm just trying to get what I'm owed. However, when Mia saw the person standing behind me, her confidence evaporated instantly. Oh my God, what are you doing here? In an unexpected turn, the man with Mia was actually Natalie's husband. During a previous online meeting, Natalie had asked, I could be wrong, but is her name Mia? After piecing together the details, Natalie had kindly agreed to come over in person. Thankfully, Natalie lived about half an hour away and had arrived first thing in the morning. What do you mean by divorce settlement? What exactly are you trying to do? No, it's not what it seems. Then explain yourself. 4 weeks, you've been making these odd claims, like that women are entitled to a divorce settlement. I didn't know, I might have been mistaken. Given the situation and what you've been saying, it sounds like you and him were plotting something together. That's not true. What do you mean, that's not true, and when did you marry this man? It turns out that John, Mia's current husband and the man involved in the harassment, was indeed Natalie's husband. I was stunned to realize. You were conspiring with Alec? That's a despicable move. Mia. No, it's not what you think. John, he's just a friend. We know you and Alec have been involved for a year now, and this is over for you. I was planning to start divorce discussions soon. What divorce? You're joking. No, I just came for some money. Alec's just a friend. It's no big deal. I only wanted some cash for my dates. Right, John, you'll forgive me, won't you? I told you the truth, didn't I? John glared at Mia with disdain. The scene was almost surreal as Natalie, Dad, Mom, Andrew, and I could only watch in shock. Why, you can't be serious. I'll never reconcile with someone like you. No, 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 I'm not getting a divorce. I refuse. Alec, clearly frustrated by Mia's behavior, muttered, well, I'm leaving. Ah, there they are. The sound of a police siren grew louder as a squad car arrived in front of our house. Andrew had called the police as soon as the disturbance started. You think you can just walk away? You're as guilty as she is. No, no, please, I was just messing around. Messing around by destroying our flower bed with a hammer, and what about the dents in our walls? Alec began to panic. But where's the proof? Show me. If you want proof, I've got it. No problem, I'll provide the dash cam footage. Dash cam footage? My car is equipped with a dash cam that records even when the car is parked. Luckily, the dash cam had captured the entire incident. Are you serious? Absolutely, and Mia, you're equally at fault. What? I had nothing to do with this. You were causing trouble too, weren't you? You'll be explaining everything at the station. No, John, please help me, have mercy. Without further delay, the police took both Mia and Alec away. They faced intense questioning at the station, were released temporarily, but were eventually sentenced to probation. Additionally, John filed for divorce and sought substantial alimony, faced with the threat of another lawsuit if they refused. They reluctantly agreed to pay in installments, $3 million from Alec and $2 million from Mia. Both were unemployed and had to take on part-time jobs to manage their financial obligations, all while remaining estranged. With that, their visits ceased, and peace returned to our home. Andrew, who had been lamenting his past luck with women, found an unexpected ally in John. They've since become good friends and are planning to attend a local matchmaking party together. Here's hoping they both find someone special. My dad suddenly collapsed and had to be rushed to the hospital. I need to be with him, so our honeymoon is off, at least for me. You'll have to go without me. In an instant, the honeymoon I had been eagerly looking forward to was cancelled. My husband insists I go alone, but who ever heard of going on a honeymoon solo? Then, someone appeared before me, and I felt my legs go weak. It was my father-in-law, the very man who was supposed to be in the hospital. Father-in-law, what are you doing here? My name is Sarah, and I've been with Mark for 5 years. This summer, he finally proposed. Looking back, those 5 years seemed like an eternity. After about a year of dating, we began visiting each other's families. Mark met my parents, who lived out of town, and I became close with his, but Mark kept saying, we'll get married once things settle at work, without making any firm plans. Eventually, he even started joking, why don't we just stay like this? That was when I began to worry. Mark, I'm turning 30, if you're not serious about this, we should go our separate ways. After that, Mark finally proposed. We were already close with each other's families and had discussed everything, from the wedding details to the honeymoon destination. All that remained was to follow through. We planned a small ceremony with only our closest friends and family. The only thing left to look forward to was our honeymoon. Mark spent the day before our departure at his parents' house. I had dinner with my parents, who had traveled from out of town, and then returned home alone. I double-checked our luggage and sent Mark a message before going to bed. Mark, you were amazing today. I'm all set for our honeymoon tomorrow. I can't wait for our trip to Italy. But I didn't get a response. I figured he must have been exhausted from the wedding. I just hoped he wouldn't oversleep and miss our flight. With that slight worry, I eventually fell asleep. The next morning, I was jolted awake by a call from Mark. Sarah, something awful has happened, he said, his words tumbling out in a rush. My dad collapsed, and he's been taken to the hospital. You'll have to go on our honeymoon alone today. What? What are you talking about? I blurted out, completely confused. But your dad seemed perfectly healthy at the wedding yesterday, didn't he? I know, Sarah, I'm just as shocked. I'm staying with him, but you should go ahead without me. That's ridiculous. If your dad is sick, there's no way I can go on the honeymoon. Who would go alone? I asked him which hospital his father had been taken to, but Mark refused to tell me. If I tell you, you'll come here, won't you? Of course I would. Your dad knows how much this trip means to us. He insisted that I let you go. Please, respect his wishes. How can I enjoy the trip knowing all this? Are you planning to join me once things improve? Yes, I'll come as soon as things are under control. Under control? Don't say, under control, like that. It sounds like you're jinxing it. Please, let me take care of things here. Go to Italy as planned. I'm almost at the hospital, so I won't be able to answer your calls. We'll talk later. Wait, Mark, I called out, but he abruptly hung up before I could say anything more. I immediately tried calling him back, but it seemed his phone was already turned off. With no way to reach him and no idea which hospital his father was taken to, I felt completely powerless. As I stood there, trying to process what had just happened, the doorbell suddenly rang. When I opened the door, my legs nearly gave out beneath me. Father-in-law. There, standing on the doorstep, was my father-in-law, the very man who was supposedly rushed to the hospital in an emergency. Your legs, they're fine, I'm so relieved. Huh, what are you talking about? He looked at me with a puzzled expression as I tried to make sense of what I was seeing. Are you feeling okay? Well, I was worried because Mark said you were taken to the hospital, but you seem perfectly fine. Oh, that? I might have had a bit too much to drink at the wedding yesterday, but I felt great when I woke up this morning. I'm definitely sober now. I even drove here to pick you up after dropping Mark off. Wait, you dropped Mark off? Yeah, you two are going on your honeymoon, right? I took him to the station, but then I realized I should come and pick you up too. Let me take you to LaGuardia. I was completely bewildered. The father-in-law who was supposed to be in the hospital was standing right in front of me, and Mark, who claimed to be at his side, had instead been dropped off at a station. None of it made any sense. Then, something clicked. My father-in-law mentioned LaGuardia, but if we were going to Italy, we should be heading to JFK, not LaGuardia Airport. Wait, you said LaGuardia, but our honeymoon is in Italy. Yeah, I thought so too, but Mark told me this morning that there was a last-minute change of plans. He said you two decided to go to Alaska instead. Alaska? The more I heard, the more confused I became. Mark said we're going to Alaska. Yes, that's right. He even left a note in the car. My father-in-law pulled out a small post-it from the back seat. It had the name of an inn in Alaska and a flight from LaGuardia to Ted Stevens Anchorage International Airport written on it. As I stared at the note, everything started to fall into place. Could you please take me to LaGuardia after all? Of course, traffic shouldn't be too bad. We'll probably get there around the same time as Mark's train. Thank you so much. As we drove, I couldn't stop thinking about Mark's behavior. Whether my suspicions were right would soon be clear once I found him at the airport. I thanked my father-in-law and headed into the airport. Near the check-in counter for the flight mentioned on the post-it, I spotted Mark immediately. He was with a young woman, their arms linked, casually selecting drinks together. It was exactly as I feared. He had been cheating on me all along. The affair must have started while we were still living together. His reluctance to marry was probably because of her. And now, not only had he been unfaithful, but he was taking his mistress on a trip the day of our supposed honeymoon. I stepped directly in front of him, my heart pounding with anger. Mark, about to exit the store with their drinks, froze when he saw me. His mouth fell open. Sarah, what are you doing here? I could ask you the same. Why are you here, Mark? Weren't you supposed to be at the hospital with your father? I just came to pick up some things. Shopping? You came all the way to LaGuardia just to buy a bottle of water? Yeah, Dad was really insistent on getting some airport water. That's interesting because I just saw your father. He came to pick me up himself, and he looked perfectly fine. What? Oh, right. After our call, he suddenly felt better. His resilience always amazes me. Mark was desperately trying to keep his story together. As I stood there, a mix of disbelief and anger washed over me. I wanted to see just how far he'd go with his lies. So, who is this woman, and where exactly were you planning to go? Well, oh, yes, She's the nurse who was taking care of Dad. We're on our way to check out a rehabilitation facility for him in Alaska. His excuse was so absurd that I couldn't help but sigh in exasperation. Enough. Your ridiculous lies are giving me a headache. I'm not lying, Mark insisted, but by then, his words were meaningless. She's really my... Mark's words were abruptly cut off by a voice from behind. My what? I turned around to see my father-in-law standing there. Father-in-law, I thought you had gone home. I sensed something was off with you, Sarah, so I parked the car and followed you. Looks like I made the right call. With his father now present, Mark's attempts at lying began to crumble, and he grew visibly anxious. Noticing his son's suspicious behavior, my father-in-law asked sternly, So, who is this woman? She's... Well, Mark stammered, struggling to come up with an answer, but before he could say anything further, the woman beside him spoke up. I'm Amy, Mark's girlfriend. Mark quickly tried to cover her mouth. Hey, what are you doing? You need to be honest, Mark, you don't love your wife, just divorce her already. What? No, stop talking. Why should I? You promised me you'd leave her. Isn't that why you chose to come with me today instead of going on your honeymoon? That's only because you threatened to expose our relationship if I didn't go to Alaska with you. I see, I said coldly. So you've been having an affair with this woman? Amy shot me a defiant look. It's not an affair. Mark and I are serious about each other. He never wanted to marry you. By this point, I was too drained to argue. Fine, do whatever you want. Without another word, I turned and left the airport with my father-in-law. 5 days later, Mark returned home. The doorbell rang, and I spoke to him through the intercom. Sarah, I can't unlock the door. Can you open it for me? Oh, about that, I changed the locks. You changed the locks? Why would you do that without telling me? I don't feel comfortable with a stranger having a key to my home. A stranger? Are you talking about me? Who else? The divorce papers are ready, so just sign them and be done with it. Wait a minute, let me in first, and we can talk this over. I kept the door chain on and slipped the divorce papers through the small gap. There's nothing left to discuss. Once you sign the papers, please leave immediately. Don't be so hasty. I've decided to break up with Amy. Huh, what are you talking about? Well, she was awful. I agreed to go to Alaska because she threatened to expose our affair, but all she did was complain about the inn being outdated and the weather being terrible. I told her clearly, I have no intention of divorcing my wife. Please end things with me. That's irrelevant to me. The only thing I care about now is getting a divorce, even if you don't want it. Don't say that. Are you upset because we didn't go to Italy? It's a bit late, but should we still go? Are you out of your mind? How could you even suggest that? I was foolish to think a reasonable conversation was possible. A man who cancels his honeymoon to be with his mistress isn't thinking rationally. Sign the divorce papers right now, and also sign this document. I passed him another document through the crack. What's this document? It was prepared by my lawyer while he was away. It outlined the alimony payments and the cancellation fee for our honeymoon. Why should I pay alimony? You're the one who wants the divorce. I'm trying to make things right. You're ignoring basic common sense. Infidelity has consequences, including alimony. The decision to reconcile isn't yours to make since you're the one who cheated. And about the cancellation fee? We didn't get a refund because we canceled the trip on the day of departure. Since your actions led to the cancellation, it's only fair that you cover the cost. I told you to go alone. Not going was your choice. How could I possibly go on a honeymoon alone? Besides, you lied about your father being ill to cover up your affair. There was no way I could go under those circumstances. Well, I really wanted to go to Italy with you too, but Amy threatened me, and I had no choice. You wouldn't want your husband to lose his job because of an exposure at work, would you? She threatened to expose you at work? Yes, she did. If Amy says she'll do something, she will. It's all her fault. I had to admit, Amy did seem the type who might act on her threats, given her boldness in declaring, I'm his girlfriend. To me, she clearly wasn't one to be underestimated. In fact, with Amy around, Mark was likely to self-destruct on his own. I just needed to get him to sign the divorce papers. Feigning concern, I asked, Are you sure it's okay for you to be here? What do you mean? You broke up with Amy, right? Wasn't she upset? Of course she was angry, but I'm done with her. You might be fine, but what about Amy? With her personality, I wouldn't be surprised if she shows up at your office and exposes you. That would be a disaster. I need to get to the office and stop her. Sarah, please pass me my company key card. This one. I held up Mark's company key card, which I had taken from his drawer. Yes, that's the one. I quickly pulled back as he tried to grab it through the door chain. I'll give you the key card in exchange for your signature on the divorce papers and the payment agreement. Mark hesitated for a moment but then agreed. Have you decided? You'd better hurry, Amy might beat you to the office. All right, I'll sign. With reluctance, Mark signed the documents and slid them through the gap. Here, this should be good, right? Now give me the key card. I handed over the key card, and Mark hurried off towards the office. I went to the courthouse to file the divorce papers and handed the signed payment agreement to my lawyer. At least the financial matters were settled. The next day, I received a frantic call from Mark. Hello. Ah, Sarah. What do you want? We're legally strangers now. We have nothing to discuss. Wait, don't hang up, Mark pleaded desperately. Feeling a bit curious about what happened, I decided to listen to his side of the story. So, what do you want now? I was called in by the board as soon as I got to the office today. Everyone knows about the affair, even though I got ahead of Amy. Isn't that strange? Oh, that's because I told them. What? You told the board? Yes, and not just them, I informed everyone at your office. I felt it was only fair to explain why we got divorced so quickly after our wedding. You seemed preoccupied with Amy, so I thought it was better to be honest with our guests. Guests? You told everyone? Yes, when I explained that you preferred a vacation over our honeymoon, everyone was appalled. But how am I supposed to face everyone at work now? You don't need to hide your true self anymore, isn't that a relief? Huh, are you kidding me? You've ruined my life. I should be the one saying that. I wish I could take back the 5 years I wasted on someone like you. When I raised my voice, Mark had no response. Why don't you just be with Amy? If she cares for you so much, wouldn't she support you even if you lose your job? Absolutely not. Nothing good comes from being with her. You're the only one who can support me, Sarah. Well, nothing good comes from being with you either. If you want support, you should start considering other people's feelings before acting. I genuinely regret it. Can't we try again? Trying again isn't an option. The damage is done. No chance. How about you reflect, turn over a new leaf, and start fresh, maybe even find a job first? Sarah, don't abandon me. You're the one who betrayed me. You'll just have to live with the consequences. I ended the call abruptly. After that, Mark returned to his parents' house a few times, trying to borrow money. However, my father-in-law, who had been falsely portrayed as gravely ill to cover up Mark's affair, was outraged. Eventually, he severed ties with Mark. Mark found the atmosphere at his company increasingly uncomfortable and ended up quitting his job. Job hunting proved difficult, and he's been barely scraping by with a part-time job at a convenience store. As for me, I used the alimony to move into a new home. Despite changing the locks, I felt uneasy living in a place my ex-husband knew about. Mark's parents helped with the move, perhaps as a way to make amends for their son's actions. We still keep in touch and share occasional meals. While I can't reclaim the 5 years spent with Mark, I'm looking forward to finding someone better in the future.